Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to go on an unexpected journey there and back again? Because we are back in Middle Earth. You know, we were only there a few days ago. That's why I check out every single Lord of the Rings retrospective. We did the anime movies, the Hobbits, the Peter Jackson trilogy, but now starts a new era, the Amazon Rings of Power era. I am the stranger, Traspy Snail, and I'm joined by...
I am half elven Kirklin Patzer.
I'm the shipwrecked Dylan Musk.
Shit-wrecked.
Shipwrecked.
I'm the knife ears Taylor Field.
Ooh.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we got lots to talk about, so we're going to keep the plugs quick. Taylor, where can they find us?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. GeekVerse on our Facebook.
Everything you need to know is down below in the links. Our audio, our video, our podcast feed, our podcast feed, our podcast network that has 6 shows covering a plethora of geek content and topics and things like that. Check out a bunch of stuff we're doing. We got newscasts, video game reviews, video game specials, She-Hulk, the whole shebang. September, if you like She-Hulk, if you like House of Dragon, if you like Rings of Power, God, if you like Andor coming up, we're covering them all. We're here, working to the bone. And you know why we can do that? Because each and every one of you support us, whether you're listening or on Patreon. Patreon's the best way to listen, because you're going to get all this content, and you can get it early and ad-free, and also support the network and get a bunch more stuff, exclusive episodes, After 9, behind-the-scenes stuff like that. And thank you to our Patreon producers, Aaron Brain, April Darkness, Smalley Biggs, and Josh Wright on the highest tier. Very soon, you'll be voting in some retrospective polls. You're going to decide what our Christmas movie is, what our video game movie is, what our Halloween movie is. So there's going to be tons of things. Taylor, is the poll going to be ready to go soon? I feel like I don't want to put you on the spot, but I feel like it would be a good time to shut that out if it's going to come out.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to our Lord of the Rings retros, I'm still waiting. I need some more villains, Kirkland. We got Grond. I need more, though.
By the time
More
he
than just
finishes,
Grond?
the
All right.
show's going to end.
I ain't going to bed till we figure this out, Taylor. We'll figure this out.
Wow.
Tonight.
Maybe do that on
We'll
Friday,
commit about
but-
12 hours.
So I'm going to start, as always, non-spoilers. We'll give you the break. So if you're wondering, hey, do I want to check out the show, or I am going to catch it another day, what do the geeks think? I'm going to throw it over to Dylan Musk, because he was the first one to see it. He got to see it on the massive big screen as well. The first 5 minutes, that's when I was really jealous. Like, oh, man, I hate Kelowna for that, because I was like, I just want to see this there. But what did you think of that experience? And then what do you think about these 2 episodes? We're going to talk about them together, because obviously it's hard to do part 1 and part 2. So floor is yours.
I got to ask you guys a quick question first. I've seen this floating on Twitter where people are showing this like GIF of the show's intro, which is like a black background and characters doing things. Is that an actual thing?
No, it was for
No.
the EW cover. And everybody that was like, the people that are like, oh, it's so woke, they were doing the whole, look at this, the budget, the show's awful. So no, it is for a magazine. That's it. The shows, did you never get an actual intro to the show, I guess?
Not really, I guess.
Episode
I
2
mean,
for Amazon, we got opening credits. It was like rocks and sands, and they were like making symbols and names and stuff like that. So
Okay.
you probably will get one next week when you watch episode 3. So there is
that
an
was
opening
like
credits.
the closing credits had that as well. So I guess
Okay.
it's the same thing for the
I think so,
opening?
yeah. Because the closing
Weird.
credits
Okay.
for me, though, was just a black screen with names.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
Okay. Interesting.
You got the switcheroo there.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting experience. I mean, I went to this kind of fan event thing, which is like it's seeing it a day early. It's not a huge deal necessarily, but I did it for Batman. It was like they were spoiling all sorts of stuff. They're like, "Who do you remember who this villain is? Here's what they look like without their mask on. This is who's playing." And it kind of just like ruined a bunch of stuff for someone who had not seen the trailers. But this one was nice because it was just a couple JPEGs and some nice music chilling there. But yeah, it was really nice to be able to see these first 2 episodes in theaters, because obviously the scope of Lord of the Rings in general, but also this show as well, very epic, right? These big landscape shots, really zoomed out cameras, beautiful music and stuff like that. And I have a crappy old TV, so to have that experience was very nice, I will say. And yeah, first 2 episodes off to a great start as far as I'm concerned. There are a kind of few storylines that we're getting introduced to, and I'm sure many of them will intertwine, and some of them already have in the first 2 episodes. But each one of them, like the acting's great. I'm invested in the storylines. A couple of them I think I've gone a bit further. The other ones still seem like they're just kind of setting the pace, setting the scenery, and that kind of stuff. But I'm into all of it. The music's fantastic. It looks beautiful. There was like no moments where there was you could see them like cutting edges on the budget or anything like that. Like they went all in. Everything looks great and authentic. And And yeah, I mean, I still have a lot of questions based on where we are. Things are still quite mysterious, but I'm very happy to have kind of some new Lord of the Rings content that feels like it was given its time to stew and make sure it came out when it's ready. And this feels definitely like that. So yeah, off to a great start. I'm really enjoying it so far.
All right, I'll go because not to like rain on the parade. I feel like I might be like the least positive on it, but I still very much enjoyed it. I think like what Dylan said, all the technical aspects, like it looks beautiful. Like the first 10 minutes of this, that's why I say I want it on the big screen because it looks like a movie, feels like a movie and stuff like that. So I was happy with that. Everything looks for the most part really, really good. Acting's good and stuff like that. I think I will say that it was smart of them to release 2 episodes back to back because I know that's been the whole thing where there's been reports that Amazon is, they're not worried, but they're like, they spent a lot of money on this show and they want to know if it's going to be worth their investment. I don't think episode 1 alone would hook people that are just casual Lord of the Rings fans or just kind of passing fans or new fans. I think they do introduce a lot, but they give you like one hook. But I think my only con against the show so far, and we'll have to see, is I think they might be trying to tackle too much at a time. I think I'm interested in most of the storylines, but I think that the first episode especially was just a lot of exposition and a lot of introducing the world where I don't feel like I really got to fall in love with any of the characters. I feel like that's happening more in episode 2 now. So that's why I'm in for the long haul. I liked what I saw. I think it is a good start. It's just not, and I hate to be that guy, but it's not like I was a person that had no interest in House of Dragon, and then when I watched that first episode, it just hooked me big time because they introduced all these character aspects and stuff like that, where this is like, oh, I like Galadriel because like my knowledge of Galadriel, I like Elrond because I like them. I think episode 2 they started to give me more reason to, but I think that's not because the writing's poor. I think it's just there's a lot of stuff they got to introduce and a lot of characters, so maybe by the end of the season I'll walk it back and say I was wrong, but I think maybe there's like one storyline, and I don't even want specifically, I just mean like maybe you could take one out and save for a later time, but we'll see. I think it's a good start. I'm liking lots of the mystery that was set up in episode 2, and I would say my highlight right now is the Hobbits. Love that storyline going on right now, the Harfeed and stuff like that, or Harfoot, sorry, I don't want to be like Bilbo's speech and screw it up, but that to me is the highlight right now, and acted very well, and I would say it feels like Lord of the Rings, but it reminds me a lot of, Kirklin has more knowledge of it right now because he's rereading them, but it feels a lot like reading Lord of the Rings. It's very slow paced, it's very book-like the way they're delivering info and the way it goes across, where like even the Fellowship of the Ring, it moves at a very quick like speed for what you have to do. So overall, really, really liking it. I wasn't in love with the 2 episodes, but we still got 6 to go, so I'm not really worried at all. So Taylorfield.
I fell in love with this right away. Like, I know what you mean, Travis, when you said about that kind of like that hook in comparison, like with Game or House of the Dragon compared to this. The second episode for me was definitely the hook, more so with the storylines and the characters. But that being said, it doesn't take away to the first episode and just it really like pulling me into this world and getting to know these characters and everything like that. Like it's just. It was good. I'm like super super satisfied with this show right now. I'm loving this, nice. The visuals of it, because it I feel like it's taken certain things that I did enjoy with The Hobbit and then things I love about Lord of the Rings, and it is creating this what feels like a cinematic experience, and it's diving into this story. And this isn't a spoiler, but like you get like an overhead shot of like just the whole map of like Middle Earth and everything, and I just love how they showcase that. Like I'm a sucker for seeing the landscape and seeing the like city names and stuff like that, like kind of like stuff like what you see in like Lord of the Rings when they like travel over the map. It's just so cool to see that, the world, and I feel like this is just a great expanding chunk of the universe that now or the storyline and the timeline that I can start to understand, because I don't, maybe someday when I retire I'll finally get around to reading these Lord of the Rings books, but it's probably not gonna happen anytime soon. So this is
Star
great.
Wars audiobooks all the time. Just do that. Do what Kirkland's doing.
Andy Serkis, man, he's phenomenal.
Well,
It'll be public domain at that point. You can write your own book, Taylor.
Yeah, well, we all will. We'll all write our own Lord of the Rings adventure.
They're back again.
I'm leaving Taylor alone.
A field, yeah.
A field story.
That's a good one. But yeah, I'm ecstatic.
Kirkland Pats.
Nice. Yeah, this is a big one. I really really enjoyed these first 2 episodes. I had a lot of fun with it. I had a couple buddies over. We did a little watch party. I feel like I haven't done something like that in like so long, and it was just a good time. Like just to be, like we just kept saying like I can't believe we're watching like Lord of the Rings 2022. Like like it's a completely different age and all that stuff. But just to be taken back into Middle Earth, it's so awesome. And like just thinking that like before we even started the episode, it's like no matter what happens, like this is just so cool that we can like be jumping back into this world that like I've just really been diving in deeply these last year and a bit now, and it's been such a fun journey. So super like positive and optimistic going into it. I feel like I'm also the type of person that is able to, no matter what happens with the show, I'm able to just not have it deter anything with like the Lord of the Rings movies, or like just what I've been going through in the novels. So that's probably a blessing because I've been seeing a lot of angry people on Twitter and just other people, talking about their own opinions on that, which is awesome. Everybody has their own, they can have their own opinion.
Someone called me a shill when I tweeted that.
I saw that. Yeah. I was gonna say I'll disagree with Kirkland. Not everybody gets their own opinion. If you're a fucking asshole,
Okay, fair
sexist
enough,
pig,
yes.
I
you don't
clicked
get
on
no
that guy's
opinion.
profile, and it's like the
not
worst
good.
place in the
Yeah.
internet.
Yes,
Like,
that
is a
guy,
complete
no opinion.
incel, so,
Yeah,
I mean,
no opinion.
I was
that
not
guy.
Like
too
going to
offended.
Mordor when you clicked onto his profile.
Definitely an orc.
But yeah, no, and like I think all the promo material. I didn't watch all the trailers because I felt like I don't know. I think the last 2 I didn't watch, so I knew I was gonna watch it. I liked what I had seen up until that point, so I didn't have to watch those trailers jumping in. But like all the other promo material, I got really really hyped on, like all the visuals, the actors. I think I just really got hyped on seeing them on screen, and I think I don't think there's like a single character or anything that I have issues with. Like I'm all really impressed with the acting for the particular roles and the casting, so that's awesome. My biggest biggest excitement going into this was definitely Galadriel. Obviously she's like definitely going to be, I think, the protagonist of this season,
Yes.
if not like the entire show. And I think she's phenomenal. I believe the actress's name is Morfydd Clark.
Yes, she's fantastic. Everyone go watch
she's
Saint
Sweet
Maud.
name, Morfydd.
Yeah,
Saint Maud.
Yeah, Saint Maud. It's a religious horror film. She's the star of
Ooh.
it. It's fantastic.
Nice.
It's in that A24 realm as far as it's a fucking weird ass movie, and the ending you will never forget. Never forget. So
Nice. I'll add to the list.
Yeah, it's good.
So just I loved her performance in this first 2 episodes. She's playing a very just like angry Galadriel, and like very like fierce, and like she's gonna be basically like a warrior queen. I don't know if she's gonna be a full queen, but like that type of character, right? Like kicking ass. Not really a spoiler, but you see that early on in the show, and I'm all for it because it's so different than what we've seen before. Obviously, in like the Lord of the Rings movies, she's the Lady Galadriel. She's a lot more like just noble, and like she doesn't kick ass directly. It's more through her indirect means. And this is a really really exciting show going forward. I think everything you guys mentioned with the visuals is completely dead on. Like CGI, it's just so gorgeous. Like the budget is really showing. The music's fantastic. I particularly like with the Harfoots. I think they did such a good job at differentiating the feel of like what the hobbits of the Shire are like versus these Harfoots. They feel so different, but at the same time they feel very similar, right? Like it makes sense that these would be like the ancestors of the hobbits. So I think they killed that. And yeah, no, I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped going forward with this show, and I think they did a really really good job with the first 2 episodes. So I'm excited to carry on with these reviews and talk further on spoilers.
Yeah, well, there we go. So, yeah, if you've not seen it, now's your time to bow out. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to get right into spoilers. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So usually I go, oh, where do you want to start? I know exactly where I want to start.
In the beginning.
Well, yeah, at the very beginning. Actually, I do want to start at the beginning for a second, though. I loved everything about that opening, the visuals,
yeah.
seeing cities melt. You got to, I knew it. I've said this for so
Yeah,
long.
you
Travis
told
told
me.
you. I knew they're gonna fucking show Sauron as quickly as they could. In 2 minutes in that show, like, and this is Sauron. I was like, yeah, I was cheering, like, yeah, let's go.
He
But
had a new weapon too. It looked so badass. He was looking like an Elden Ring character or something.
yeah, so I like that, and they're doing the whole Lord of the Rings thing with Mogarth, I guess.
Mogarth, that's a cousin.
Morgoth.
Morgoth. I'm getting close enough.
You're very close.
Mogoth. But like all this good stuff of like whether it's stuff I've heard or stuff you've talked about, and like Taylor's talking about, they kind of started the whole like how they transition to places as the map. So that's all I say is just the beginning. I absolutely loved it. That, I guess that was maybe where for me that was like the highest point of the show. So the show never got back. That it never got like really low, but that was like just such a moment. Like like seeing that battle of Finrod just being taken out. I know we'd seen in the trailers, but seeing the full scene, seeing these orcs, so it's a very like Fellowship of the Ring-esque opening. But I absolutely loved it. And I thought that was all. And the Sauron thing's smart because they actually are talking about Sauron quite a bit in the show, but it was smart for the general audience for them to show him right away back. Hey, this is the guy. And I had to ask you, Kirklin, like, would these people be talking about Sauron right now? Because I always got to pick your brain about these canon stuff. Because you guys always do the same to me. So, like, would they be talking openly about this destroyer known as Sauron right now?
Yeah, I'm not the most well versed on this era, so this is very exciting. But I would believe so because like Sauron was very openly like Morgoth's like main lieutenant. So as soon as he got bopped, like he was the new head honcho.
Yeah.
And also like I feel like they would just know of him from like the time that he was not evil, you know, like because he was a Maiar. He used to be a trainee or whatnot from Aule, which is who they mention a lot of times. He was the one that created the dwarves. So I feel like they just would know of that character being shifted. So I had no issues with that at all. And I think very early on in the show, like they're just setting what the elves' goal is right here. It's particularly Galadriel. Like, okay, she's looking for the villain. Like they think that the war is over, but this is what we're pursuing. And I think that worked out completely fine for me. And as soon as we saw Sauron, I'm like, oh, Travis is right. And I don't know why I doubted it because it's like we're seeing the prologue, which is like the same thing that happens at Fellowship, right? When they show the big bad, it's like, why am I surprised that they had him? It looked so fucking good. So I was completely fine with, you know, entering this room expecting a Travis told you so, but
well, it's just where the money is.
Still
but now,
hurts a little bit.
Now I can't wait because when we did the Return of the King retro and I said, oh, we never saw it fight, we're gonna see Sauron fight some people in this show, and I can't wait. I can't wait for them to use the budget and give it. And it could be
that big
seasons from
staff
now.
thing
yeah,
too that he had.
It could be a while from now, but I thought just the set for Galadriel, that was a perfect just. You know the goal, you get the goal, and I love the whole. It feels like a memory for some, but not for her. It's been centuries. Like all that stuff to set her up was, I think, everything with Galadriel to me was perfectly done. So,
and I like too that we have a variety of characters and storylines, and they're not all focused on that one thing. You know, they're not all hunting down Sauron. And there's, you know, Elrond kind of bumped in with Galadriel, but then he's kind of off doing his own journey for the time being. So like there's already kind of a bit of a connection there. But then, you know, two of the other, like the Hardfoots and I guess Arondir and Bronwyn, I guess we're going to call that section of the story, Arondir's story, whatever you want to call it. Like that's, I guess I would have to assume it's somehow related with this orcish looking character. We'll talk about him later on, but I like that storyline is something else too. So, and yeah, as you guys mentioned, like the map jumping around between these things, I think is a good way to, one, familiarize like me as well, because I've played so much Lord of the Rings Risk that I have a general layout of the map, but like I don't know these cities of old and things like that. So it helps me to remind it as well. And you know, it's fun. Sometimes we're passing over an area that I am familiar with. It's kind of fun to see, not directly referenced, but of course those places were always there. So I think for me, the pacing and switching between these different characters and storylines is working really well, and you get a mix of these stories that are very dark, like Galadriel's, but then these moments of levity between other characters and storylines, with whether it's the dwarves, whether it's the Harfoots, and of course there's darker moments in those storylines too. But I think it's a good way that they can mix in different vibes and tones, and it's meshing well, and that's a good testament, because I feel like Lord of the Rings, like once they're in a phase of the story, all of the storylines kind of feel like they have that same feel to them, that direness to them, or that levity all at once. So I think that's working well for me here.
What about you, Taylor?
Personally, I don't feel at all like I'm spread too far over all these storylines. Like I just feel like
not butter scraped over too much
God,
bread.
we gotta bring that line up again.
Yeah,
it's the best line in the trilogy.
It was like everything kind of popping off.
The best line in the trilogy, the toast and bread.
I think we've said that enough for 1 year. Let's kick that to 2023 and come back.
Oh no, man, I love it. This is so good.
Yeah, I just
Travis
think
feels
like,
right now as he's all sick.
Yeah,
and
like butter scraped over too much bread.
No, don't use this.
I'm just so invested starting right out of the gate of that first episode with the different storylines that they kind of introduced to us. And just seeing, I'm gonna hone in again because we've been talking about Galadriel and Elrond. Like I love that kind of dynamic that we're seeing here. Now, in terms of like leading into the show and understanding like who was in here, like I knew that there were some characters we were familiar with. Elrond totally went over my head. The only one that I went in here knowing for sure was like, okay, we got Galadriel, and then
You forgot
obviously-
about Elrond?
I don't even know if I like forgot, but it just like completely like I just it didn't clue in that I was gonna see him in this show.
That's called forgetting, David.
I knew he was existing, but I didn't put point A and point
Remember,
B. Like
we did a newscast when we were like, oh, this is Elrond? Like, he just looks a little, you know,
I
but,
have no
you know.
memory of this.
Yeah.
all
but-
I remember is like Eminem. That's like the main
Oh,
thing that
yeah.
consumed my
Oh,
focus.
God.
Speaking of House of
everything.
Dragon, though, do you guys know where Elrond's from? Do you remember what you've probably seen him once in your life? He's young Ned Stark in Game of Thrones. You know those flashbacks. in that
You're
season.
right. That's
Yes.
true.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Good pull.
And
Good
originally,
Good ball.
yeah, good pull, good pull. Originally, this was supposed to be Will Poulter, but he backed out of this role, and I wish he didn't.
Oh man.
I don't dislike Elrond, but Will Poulter would have been a lot better. But I
He's
think
too busy
he,
doing Adam Warlock.
well, that was no,
He's
that
getting
was
too jacked for the role.
Elrond just
Too
like,
jacked
"Oh."
for an
Yeah.
elf.
Yeah, no, I think that was part of the thing because they just told him how long it was going to be, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to commit to all that. I'm going to go do a Marvel movie." So, well, but he just backs out of stuff. He backs out of it. He backs out of this. But so what I want, we talked about the beginning, but what I really want to talk to Kirklin about, I want to talk about the Stranger because I feel like that has come up a few times when we've got that first trailer because you know, like we were talking about Sauron being the giver of gifts, and I was like, at one point in the trailer they show this guy handing something, but Kirk's like, well, no, that wouldn't be him because he's too dirty. He's supposed to look good. It's like, okay, like, well, what else could he be and stuff like that. So, Kirklin, I'm going to ask you some yes or no questions. I just two. Am I wrong in assuming this could be a wizard type, like the race that Gandalf is and stuff like that, from coming from the sky?
I don't think you're wrong. It
Okay.
would be different canon because technically the wizards came at the start of the Third Age. So if
okay.
that is a wizard, which I mean, he looks like it, right?
Yes.
He was showing off a little bit of magic powers. Came from the sky.
Showing off.
And obviously he just has the characteristics of what a wizard character might look like. He looks very much like a gray wizard, you know, someone like that. So if it is, it would be different, but I don't know. I definitely think he could be some sort of like Maiar character, like someone from there. But yeah.
So
Just
question
drops like, my name is Gandalf.
Yeah,
Just-
my name
Well,
is
hang
Gandalf.
on. My second
The
question,
third
it's not Gandalf, but my second question is, this is not a Travis told you, and I don't think it lines up time-wise. Because I even paused on Amazon because they always list the characters. This is the Stranger in every single credit. No one's saying anything about this guy. I don't think it's going to be this, but man, they sure got a guy that looks like a young Christopher Lee, in my opinion. If you look at Christopher Lee and his facial features, that nose, his brow, he looks like he could be playing young Saruman. I'm not saying he is, but that could have been an on-purpose thing because he looks like Christopher Lee the whole time. He's even tall like Lee is. He has that face and bone structure. It's scary. So that's what I was going to ask you, Kirkland. Do you have any paper knowledge of when Saruman was first appearing in Middle-earth and shit like that?
Again, I think they all came at the exact same time, like 1,000
Maybe
years.
he got lost.
It was like year
was
1,000
late.
of the Third Age. I mean, yeah, and like because they've already stated that they're going to be changing up some canon things, that very much could be the case. So, you know, if you're
Did the wizards come down via meteors?
that's another thing I don't really understand. I feel like I never asked myself that question of like, how do they get there? Do
Are they
just
aliens?
fast travel? Do they
Ancient
a UFO come bring them in? Do they fly in on Shadowfax? I'm not too sure because yeah, because technically to my knowledge, the Astari, which is just what the wizards are, they were sent in year 1,000 of the Third Age, I believe. And sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, when you're talking about the Astari here, when he was like crashed and he was like recuperating the like next day, and he went to like Nori was there and he grabbed like this little stick. I was like, oh, he's getting his staff. Like, this is very
Me too. I legitimately thought that. You're not alone.
Okay, I'm
Taylor.
not alone. Okay, good.
I thought
I
this
was
the
not going down
origins.
that route at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they make so much. And once again, as Kirkland said, they could change stuff, but to me, they made so much of a point of him being a giant, and I know that they are Harfoots, so they're not tall people, but the way they're framing it to me is that he seems like he's bigger than a man, specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Or
See,
or is that just because they're Harfoots and so anyone who's not Harfoot is
It's
giant
tough
then?
because
That's
when
how I
they're
took
picking
it.
when they're
Yeah.
picking blackberries, I'm like, are these the biggest blackberries I've ever seen, or are they
Yeah.
just that small?
Because the way they always frame things is that the hobbits specifically look small, and like a regular man looks like a regular man. But even the way this guy was shot, I know it's comparison to these people, but even just when he was on his own, he just looked very big, like compared to the trees and things around him and stuff like that.
Right.
So I don't know. Like to me, that seemed like a thing, but I have no idea if giants are like a Tolkien lore thing, and that makes sense at all. So
I think they have giants. Absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't they? They have so many other things.
like
They
giant
walking
men,
trees.
like people.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I don't know of a specific one, but let's get crazy. Why not?
I don't know a specific one, but
And like that was another thing I was going to mention though is like if you're watching this review, if you're watching the show and you're expecting this to be like exactly tying into like what the Lord of the Rings is, like the showrunners already said that they are going to be making some canon changes. So for your own sanity, I would definitely take that with a grain of salt when you're like, where are all these pieces going to tie together? Because like technically, I think we'll get there at some point in the show, but like I'm pretty sure Galadriel and Celeborn meet like very early, like before they even come across into Middle Earth.
now she's gonna
So-
be sleeping with this human guy.
Yeah, I hope not, but we'll see what happens.
I think it's happening. I think that's what they're already the very longing stares and water saving, and
Well,
it's happening. They're getting down.
No, this guy's dying like
On-
next episode probably.
on
yeah,
that-
after they bang. Yeah, she's like, no one can know. Shot.
On that note of just her, like again with her love life, I don't at all see how she could ever be with her like husband in the Lord of the Rings, or
Celeborn?
like that.
Arranged
Yeah.
marriage, Taylor.
Yeah,
Arranged
it
marriage.
must be because I just feel like she's got so much chemistry with Elrond, even though Elrond hard friend zones her in episode 1. And,
Really? You think good?
Well, Taylor, do you
I think
remember
it's
their
good.
do you remember their dynamic? Like their actual dynamic and the time frame of like Fellowship of the Ring and stuff?
like Elrond and Galadriel,
Yeah, like how they're
he remembers in The Hobbit.
related or anything.
how they're related, I don't recall. No.
So, if you didn't know, Galadriel is Elrond's
Right.
mother-in-law. So, it'd be very strange if they're
That's a more
getting it on
episode
back
right
here.
Yeah. But yeah, and obviously that's something we had talked about, like in the promotion, and we'd seen The Stranger a little bit about like what's this thing in the sky, and well, I
Yeah.
like that we got our answer episode 1 because I like the trailers didn't make that too exciting for me. Of like it's just like a shooting star meteor. It's like okay, this could
Well-
be thousands of things. So I like that episode 1 ended with us already getting the answer and not like hanging over our heads. So
While we were just during episode 1, I was because in the trailer they showed all of like the cast members seeing this meteor. I'm like, okay, we're gonna see Numenor because someone on Numenor sees the meteor. But I was kind of shocked that we didn't see them at all in the first 2
a good
episodes
point,
because
yeah.
obviously one of the characters did see it. So we'll just be seeing that later on. I'm assuming the next episode will be touched upon Numenor.
Another
I-
meteor.
there was another. Here comes Gandalf,
Shower,
right?
yeah.
All the different Maiar, and like honestly, that could be possible. I have another theory with regards to
I'm bringing up his
this
face.
bring up his face, Meteor Man. as
Yeah,
it's
good.
going
I was
on
gonna ask you like
Meteor
what
Man.
your theory was and stuff like that. I can never get a big one and stuff like that. I gotta click on the actual numbers.
yeah.
Like,
Look
but
at all those
already
pixels.
noticed it's like, is he Gandalf? I'm not saying
Yeah.
he's gonna be Gandalf. But like that.
He looks scraggly like him, right? The Gray Pilgrim.
That's
as he's
Christopher
known.
Lee right there. They probably just de-aged his
And that-
dead body. you
That
know?
shot too of just like the explosion site. I can never not see like the Eye of Sauron there, and that's
Definitely.
what's very very interesting
Yeah.
to me. And
Mhm.
just like his whole persona in this episode, like he just seems very sus in my opinion. So I definitely think he is going to be a bad guy, or like a force against our heroes.
Well, they kind of
again,
hinted at it with the bugs, right? Like
Yeah.
how it gave life
kinda
and
kills
then
them,
He
yeah.
took them all away, even if he doesn't know he's there for bad. But see, like
Yeah.
that nose, that forehead. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
he's got the
you're
beard and the
onto
hair
something.
already. You know, I'm not doing a Travis Tully though, but we'll see.
no money on that one. So yeah, I definitely think that there will be a twist that he is some sort of bad guy, whether he was sent directly by Sauron, whether he was like summoned by Sauron. I think that's completely within his power. He's known as the Necromancer at some point. Like there's no reason why he can't just make something like that. But I don't know, because if you've seen the trailers, you would recall that we've also seen a Balrog, right? And
Yes.
if you didn't know, Balrogs are fallen Maiar, and I was saying to my buddies that were over, like, is this possible that they could actually be changing some things? And I don't know, maybe I just had like the whole Diablo 2 storyline in my head, where you have this like wandering character, and at the end he turns into Diablo. Is this possible that like this guy could go through a similar change? Because he's not saying words. He's clearly powerful in some sense. He's sent from the sky, showing fire, used the fireflies at some point and like left them death. I don't know how much weight there is to that theory, because technically with the canon, I think all the Balrogs were actually made like by Morgoth in the first age. The only reason why we see one in the events of the third age is because Durin's Bane, like the one that lives in Moria, escaped like that last battle and just hid there forever. So to my knowledge, there wasn't any like new ones after that point. So this would definitely be something new. But I don't know. We saw the Balrog in the trailer, so we know it's coming. And in my opinion, I think this guy is going to be evil. So we'll see what happens. But I think that could be pretty like a pretty fun theory. I definitely would anger some people, I'm sure, because they're just changing canon. But I mean,
I'd
the
sign that
showrunner said
contract.
they're-
I
Yeah,
like the
okay.
theory with the like the fire connected to him and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I could see that being possible.
And like symbols, that's always kind of some demonic thing.
Mhm, yep. Do you guys got anything to say in this trailer? The Stranger, Taylor or Dylan?
My thought when we broke down one of the trailers was that since all the characters in the different places are all seeing it, I thought that would kind of be the inciting event that would bring all these characters together. But I don't think that will be the case, at least not in as straightforward of a way, because this seems like it's going to be the Harfoot's journey for at least a few episodes, and maybe it crosses over with someone else later on. But I don't see that now, unless for some reason he was like bringing more meteors down, and that was a thing that he was trying to signal. Like maybe the fireflies that he was putting up in the sky that they were mentioning was a constellation. Maybe instead he was like looking out for the other meteors or something to bring them down.
Hit here.
Yeah, hit here. I don't know. Obviously, that's kind of way out of left field, but I don't know. It's definitely. I'm glad that we got this in the first episode. But yeah, that it's a lot different than I was expecting. And yeah, I kind of forgot about that shot that Kirklin mentioned too of other characters seeing this. So I think it would be weird to do a flashback to that now. So either that's just something they showed for trailer's sake, as they often do with things, to throw people off the scent of what's going on in these shows. But once again, I guess I would maybe say instead of a flashback, I would maybe expect it to be another meteor that's falling, and maybe there's multiple of them. And if this wizard theory is a thing and they're changing stuff up, then there could be other meteors for how many is there again? There's like 6 or 7, right? 5. Okay.
Yeah.
It could be a flashback if they meet someone information and they like refer to the night that they saw it, and then they started looking into things and stuff like that. So
Definitely could be.
there's a chance. Yeah. Taylor, anything on the Stranger?
I just feel, again, like when I first saw him like appear, I just thought, oh my god, I feel like it's a mayor or Meyer. How do you pronounce it?
He's the mayor of
The mayor.
of the Eleanor. No, Maiar.
Maiar, yes. So that's what I kind of gravitate to, and I, again, like I said earlier, like I really do prescribe to that theory of him being and turning into a Balrog or something like that. I feel like that'd be so cool to actually take in and see. And to me, like, again, I'm not super attached to this canon, so where other people might get salty and pissed off, I necessarily will not, especially if I see like our boy Sauron just like turning his guy into a Balrog or something like that. Like, oh my goodness, that would be great.
You won't, because it's not Halo. Like if you don't know this stuff, you don't got to worry about the canon stuff. We just get to sit back and like, oh, it's a good show. But
Yeah.
at the end, this Kirkland's going to turn into the Halo. Don't bring up the white eye guy, whatever he is. But,
They were looking.
yeah, and I guess I want to bring them up just because to connect to that story. I'm really liking Nori and Poppy. It's like I like the dynamic. I love all that is the stuff that felt the most like the Peter Jackson movie, like the humor in those moments when they were bringing the stranger up on the cart and they look back and he was just like rolling.
Yeah,
and
that was
just that shot of his body just like shaking going down the hill. I loved it. So
And like
no,
when they're chasing him, it looked like they were going so slow because they're just their
Yes.
little legs. It was a good detail. They
and
threw
whenever
in.
things she's like, oh, by the Grey Ghost or whatever, and they go out. Like, no, I like the dynamic. I like that it's like not some rip off of like Frodo and Sam. They're very different. Nori has that same type of Bilbo thing where she wants like adventure in her life or to do something that's not just being with the other Harfoot. Like she wants to she says that I want to see what are the elves talking about? Like, why do these birds sing different songs? So I like that, but I like that Poppy is just, hey, I don't want to go anywhere. Now Sam wanted to get home, but Sam still eventually, went with Frodo, helped out. Where Poppy feels like it's gonna be even more harder to get her to do these things. But I like the chemistry they have. I like all the comedy. So everything with the Harfoot, like, I guess I want to keep saying feet because they're plural, but really I'm just gonna call them the hobbits because they're a type of hobbit and I don't give a fuck. I liked everything with the hobbits and stuff like that. There's the one older gentleman with the white hair that I thought was he's a little
like the leader guy.
Yeah, he's a little cheesy. No, not the dad. Yeah, the leader guy. He's a little cheesy for me so far.
Like the dad was the cheesiest.
Yeah, but he was the good type of cheese for me for some reason. Like how the hobbits are, like he just felt like I don't know. I didn't love him the most, but there wasn't much in there. He was just walking around. So, and for some reason he looked a lot bigger than all the other people. That's what kept throwing me off too. Like he looked like the biggest of Harfoot. But I liked all the community. I hope her dad makes it because they were sure hinting like, oh, it's just a sprain or something. And then they touched his foot, and it's like, I'm not saying he's gonna die, but I don't know if they have amputations back then or what the deal is. But that foot was not looking good, and they were really like, oh yeah, he'll be fine. And it was like trailing off, and we didn't get answered about it again.
You can't make the migration. You
They need
stay
some
behind.
King's route, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I hope he makes it. But yeah, Nori, Poppy, 2 thumbs up for me right now with those characters.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it just seems like such a genuine friendship, and like their dialogue is so realistic, which I'm really enjoying. I love the introduction to them, how they kind of have like their scouts in various places, and they all just pop out of the trees, and they're hiding under veils of leaves and stuff like that, and they just have a pop-up town that they can just hide from or bring out in a matter of 1 minute, and I think that's a really fun detail. So yeah, I'm all in on this storyline. I think they, as we've kind of mentioned, like a similar vibe to Hobbits, but also feeling different and new in a fun way too. And I mean, that's just something I love so much about this show, is there's just so much of little world building things. Like there's like a shot where you're seeing a few people like making pies and stuff like that, and I just feel like they're really going all the way and making these places feel realistic, just in terms of like down to survival. Like what are they eating, how are they getting their food, and stuff like that. So I'm all into it. And now that you mentioned that the dad being kind of knocked, his foot's not doing so good.
Yeah.
They set up the wolf too, and how he's probably tracking the pack. So that could be a thing where he could be the weakest link, where he's not able to hide super well. He can't run fast, and that wolf, as we saw, had a pretty big paw. So maybe that could be his demise.
Was it? I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be a wolf or was it supposed to be like a warg or something like that. To mean like there's
Yeah.
Maybe an
orcs
early
nearby.
warg.
Whatever it is, it's not good.
I think it is a work. they redesigned, obviously, because they can't use the Peter Jackson designs. But it seems like it. It doesn't look
Where
like
was
your
that lawyer for
standard
the
wolf.
Balrog, though? Hey,
Well, they
Where
called
was
it
that
a
lawyer?
That's what's interesting. Sorry?
They called
Sorry,
it a
Dylan?
wolf, didn't they?
Yeah. Could just be because they're not used to it. I don't know. Because maybe they've seen wolves, but now that the evil's kind of creeping up, maybe they're actually starting to see more wargs and they're not used to it, so they just are under the perception
Would a
it is.
warg? Maybe it's a dumb question. Would a warg be like an orc of a wolf? Like they take a wolf and transform it like they do orcs,
Well, like wargs are
or are they just another creature?
they're like
own
made
breed.
from Sauron, so they would be
Okay.
loyal to him. I think that's why they work with the orcs in that manner.
I would be surprised then if that was a warg in this. I don't know why
Right.
Sauron would make a warg that just randomly go hunt these harvests.
Has to harvest the
Seems odd.
blackberries.
Be caught free. There's gonna be a whole spin-off.
He makes
Yeah.
bulk. He makes
That's-
bulk wargs. He doesn't
That's
control
Sauron's
all of them.
kryptonite is fucking blueberries. He just loves nice fresh berries.
Don't take them by that town. They
The
won't
ring
stay
is made out of
focused.
99% blackberries.
Yeah. Anything else to say on? Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, with the Harfoots, it's interesting because I think out of all of like the storylines, these are my least interested one. But at the same time, like I still really liked it. So I think that just goes to show the quality and like interest that I have for all these different storylines. Because, like, yeah, we got the Meteorite Man, which is interesting. Just like a little Harfoot that just wants to be adventure. Like I've seen that before, so it's like okay. Going into the show, I wasn't that excited for them. I had some concerns with them, just their inclusion. just, I don't know, possibly bringing down the importance of what like the hobbits being the unlikely hero. Now I don't really have those thoughts after these first 2 episodes.
Isn't it a bit different though? Because like both Frodo and Bilbo really had to be coaxed into it to like want to go on an adventure, and then they end up loving it. But it was still a bit of a
I think it's
tumultuous
just because
journey
they're
to get out the
so
door.
they were like so unequipped to be like the main factor in the war for the ring, and that's why I love them so much, is because everybody just counts them out, right? Like Sauron constantly is just like, you're wasting time with the hobbits. That's what he says to Gandalf, and then
Because
obviously
they left
they're
him
the
in that fucking
MVPs.
cart and he rolled back.
Yeah, he doesn't like
Mad at
hobbits.
them.
Sauron, he remembers. He's all pissed. Your theories coming together. Yeah, so like going into the show, I
Dragging
thought
the
maybe
ass.
maybe they're just including the hobbits, and maybe they are doing this. Maybe they're just including the hobbits because people know what they are. Just get people watching it. That's very well could be the reason. But I think what they're doing with them, I don't have those concerns anymore, because as I said already, they've completely separated them from what the Shire hobbits would be like, right? The ones from Hobbiton. These ones, just everything from like, these ones just seem a lot more hard workers. Lazy, smoking their pipe weed and just drinking and just partying, where these ones, they just seem like they all have tasks to do and they're all like very busy.
Right.
I love all the details that you mentioned, Dylan, with them just like making food and like all their different like designs, whether people have hats, some people just have like unique costumes, and they live in a different setting, right? Like these ones live kind of more in a wood like setting, whereas the other ones are like rolling hills in like the Shire. And I can't remember if I mentioned it already, but like the sound, or the sound, like the theme song for the Harfoots versus the Hobbits is so different. This one, it reminded me of like the Legend of Zelda, like the Deku village, like whatever they're called, the little like tree people. Like that's what the theme kind of reminded me as, which is very different than what the Bag End theme is, like what Howard Shore did. So I think all of those little details have just gone down to making them very separate from what they are, and I think they're killing it, and it makes me intrigued about their stories. But I'm just a little bit more intrigued with some other things. Obviously Galadriel, that whole thing. I'm super pumped to just learn more about Sauron, and we're finally getting dwarves. Oh my gosh, I'm so pumped.
Yeah, I wanted to quickly mention on the music too, because I think in all of our coverage of this, we always thought Howard Shore was the composer because he did the main theme. And I saw some people talking about that, and I mean, I was even like, oh, that's too bad that he's not doing the whole thing. But after just 2 episodes, like, I laid down my sword. I think Bear McCreary is the name of the composer, and music is fantastic so far. I'm super into it, and I mean, the theme is also good. But yeah, I'm very happy to have something new and fresh that feels, once again, that it fits in that world, but it's not playing on nostalgic tones. It's not just like rehashing old themes and adding a new instrument to it or something. Like, it's fresh, and I'm very much happy with that. So
yeah, I was gonna say, because in their Discord, I can't remember, we were talking about like people who should compose Batman. S-Bubs shouted him out, and yeah, he's done a lot. He's doing God of War Ragnarok and Forspoken coming out. He's done Walking Dead, 177 episodes. He did.
There's 177 episodes of that show. What the?
Yeah, he did
Finale
Call of Duty
this
Vanguard. Taylor.
I saw Call of Duty Vanguard, which is a great score.
And he did Godzilla King of Monsters. Happy Death Day to you.
He did King of Monsters?
Yeah. So he's been around for a
What
while.
a resume.
Yeah, Agent Shield, Black Mirror, stuff like that. 10 Cloverfield Lane. So yeah, he's been working, and he's doing some good stuff. I agree. I don't think I talked about the score, but yeah, I was saying I was disappointed at first when I heard that Howard Shore wasn't doing all of it, but I think this guy is doing his own right very well. So good job, Bear.
Just before we move away from the halflings, I wanted to hone in on something specific and see what you guys thought of this. So when the 2 travelers are wandering through and they have like their moose backpacks and stuff like that, and then the leader guy you were talking about, Travis, when they set up their colony, he opens up his book and he hones in on a certain part, because the general theme is like, if anything outside of the norm happens with them, it's like, okay, you're bringing bad omens to us and this negative thing is going to occur, and that's the generalization of it. But in this sense, like, he's looking at almost like predicting something, because in the book you can actually see the travelers there with the moose backpacks, and then it shows something like, I'm assuming that was the wolves after that. So what do you guys interpret that as? Like, is he predicting? Is this all like foretold from their ancestors? I'm curious.
It seems like some sort of prophecy, right? Because he had like matching symbols with like the travelers, the wargs, I think, and then it kind of led to the meteor. or like at least some stars. Like it seemed like something similar to that. So I think it's just some bad things are coming.
Just
And
full on Sauron sketch. in the
probably
book.
probably all leads to Sauron. I would imagine.
So do we think this is like one of the halflings is a seer of some kind and wrote this down? Did they find this book somewhere? Like where did this come from?
I hope they found it. I don't need a halfling to be a seer. I really don't want to go down that route. So hopefully
That's what the
they found
Balrog
it.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. God.
The Harfoot. Yeah, it's interesting because I, to my knowledge, like I haven't seen much like written scripture of like that type of seer like foretelling thing. I've obviously heard prophecies before, but I feel like just because I've heard them in like older tales, like Silmarillion tales, maybe I didn't fully understand that it would be something so similar to this. To like, for who would have written that, it would have been pretty weird if it was a Harfoot type character. I've never seen like a Hobbit like character like what this character is. I forget his name even.
I'll try and
Did
pick
you
it up.
catch
Yeah.
that one? Yeah,
Yeah.
but whatever his name is, he definitely is fitting that seer type role of just always getting stuck in his book and just looking for the signs and being that character. So
His name's Jimbo.
Jimbo.
No,
Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Is that one.
It's Sadoc, Sadoc, I think. Sadoc Burrows.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Sadok.
Also known
Sadoc
as
Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Yeah.
Let's take another ad break and then we'll move on to some other Jimbos. So we'll be right back. And we're back. Jimbo's a shout to my kids. 'Cause I don't know if Logan picked up from daycare or something. She just walked up like an inch from my face. She said, "You're a big Jimbo." And then she walked away.
Oh.
I didn't know what to take from that. So,
You're a
but
big
I think it's a
Jimbo.
you're a
positive.
big Jimbo.
Did she say it in like an aggressive manner? Like,
Yeah,
"You
she
big
said it in a
Jimbo"?
mischievous manner. Like Logan is like Loki, just like you never know with her. But I'll talk about because Kirklin, you're talking about what you thought was the least exciting. I'll talk about for me what was the least exciting, but it's not the whole storyline in general. And this is the next thing I'm more intrigued to ask you about. So we got this alpha Arondir, I think it was. Arondir. Really liking him. I love the armor with the face and everything like that.
Looks
Cool.
so badass.
Huge ass bow. Oh my god.
Yeah. I like when he goes into town. I thought it was a little on the nose when they had the guy drop the "What do you people want?" I thought I was like, okay, I can't. Like, I'm not trying to be the woke guys, but I thought it was a little like, okay, I get.
Felt like a Witcher scene, hey? Of like
Yeah.
this badass hunter walking in, everyone being like very off put by him.
Yeah, so and I liked all that, and I like also we're going to talk about how it ties into with the orc and what this kid's finding because I'm always down for like creepy bad guy shit. I just don't know if I need this Romeo and
Love
Juliet love
dynamic,
story
yeah.
right now, especially because I feel like it's just going to be very similar to Aragorn and Arwen, where not the same dynamics, but just the we can't be together. There's all these things, and I get it. It's fun and being like, I've never felt anyone's touch but yours, and I like the other stuff that's going on. I almost would prefer if this was the first time they were meeting and that we saw that love kind of grew. And right now, that I'm not really interested in. I know we're probably going to get quite a few development on that, but everything around him, I think the woman's name was Brown. I think it was
Bronwyn, I think. Right?
Braun. Okay, was it Braun?
Bronwyn.
Bronwyn. Okay, her and the son, liking all that. Can't wait to see where we end up. That scene of him in the tunnel, really good, like horror aesthetic, just like great claustrophobia, everything. So I'm 50-50. I have more to say on like the actual weird sword thing, but that's where I am on that storyline. That's my least favorite right now, just because that aspect.
Is it impossible to believe that this character could be the son of that elf? We don't see his ears at any point, right? His hair's covering his ears. Theo, I think is his name.
Oh,
her
yeah,
son.
I think so. With what they were
Yeah.
saying, they're like, "Where'd your dad go?" and everything.
Yeah.
Like, there's something
I
there.
didn't even
And
think about that. Yeah, that
we
makes
talked
sense.
about
Yeah,
that with
interesting.
the retro, though, right? Where Arwen's an elf, but the son is not an elf. Like, he might have some elven
Right.
blood, but he doesn't have the ears and whatnot. So, no, I thought that's exactly what's going to happen. That's going to
Mhm.
be his son, I would think.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, that's why the dad left, because he found out about this. And the poor kid, this town's already talking about your woman being with an elf, which is funny because like in this show, because you've talked about this before, but how they come from like a different land, like they live somewhere completely different, and then they come to Middle Earth, and how they're just like, even though they're these undying, beautiful, very skilled people. They're looked upon as lesser than everybody else. Like you would think that you maybe look at them more majestically, but people don't right now in this era. You know, like her being with an elf is looked at as like ew, like your mom was sleeping around with an
it's
elf.
specific too because they're not just they're different from other humans, other men and women, right? Because these are former or their ancestors are servants of Morgoth. So
Yeah. Because where I believe where they're located, like that one watchtower, is like on the border of Mordor. Like that's why that's there, is to look out for bad shit. Obviously, because like the war's over, that's why you see Mordor kind of like green and like
pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting, and I like they didn't specifically say. I think like that's where they were, but they showed like the map and where that watchtower was. I kind of had that assumption going into the show, so until they say otherwise.
Could that be like Cirith Ungol or something like that? Any different time?
Ooh, I feel like it might be a little bit more south than that, but
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it definitely is in that vicinity, so I wouldn't be too surprised if that'd be pretty crazy actually.
You'd
Yeah.
think, I mean, if it's a good spot for a watchtower, it's a good spot for a watchtower,
Yeah.
you know?
Get probably good spiders in that area too. They have no
See little
mosquitoes in that
We're gonna
realm.
see little baby Sheila up there.
Yeah.
Look at
That was one thing I was a little bit let down that they left out of the prequel because the prologue opening, because they show the silhouette of Morgoth. That was very surprising. Very cool scene. You see him like killing the tree, but what actually killed the tree was Ungoliant, which is Shelob's like mother. She was like the mother of all the great spiders. Literally a ginormous spider, like probably bigger
Oh
than
my
that
God.
city that you see in the
Jesus
opening.
Christ.
That
like,
sucks.
literally
How do you
ginormous,
win
so-
that battle, you know?
Taylor's ears perked up thinking about
Well,
this kaiju. That's
how you
coming.
win that battle? You Morgoth and all of his Balrogs like put an end to her. It was pretty epic battle, and I was
Now,
hoping with $1 billion
is this a
budget,
real
maybe
thing,
we were
or
going
is
to
this
see
just
that.
like a tale that people tell?
This was a real thing, yeah. Morgoth like got Ungoliant to poison the trees, and like they had like a deal. I think he was going to give her a Cimmeril, and then
Now,
he
what's a
betrayed her.
Silmaril for the kids at home?
Cimmeril is like a crystal. They actually mentioned it in I think episode 2, which I was very shocked about, because you have Celebrimbor, and he was staring over the hammer that Feanor used to make the Cimmerils. They'll probably talk about it more, so I don't want to get too into it. They hint at something similar to what a Cimmeril would be with like Durin and his father. You see them
Okay.
looking at that Pulp Fiction case that they open, right, with like the glow. You didn't see
Right.
what it was. It could be the Arkenstone, right?
I was
Because
gonna
that's
ask
obviously
you about
very
that, yeah.
important to Durin's folk. I kind of jumped around all over there, but getting back to that
Yeah.
opening scene, like with Ungoliant, I was expecting to see it because we saw Morgoth there, and technically she was there, but you know they have a big budget, but maybe not that big of a budget to focus on a giant spider just for this one moment.
Yeah, I wonder if they would have thought that looked like, maybe that reads really well, but on screen it would have looked
Right,
cheesy or
yeah.
something, you know?
It would have been very strange, I think, if you had no idea what the fuck who this is.
Because then
right?
people would be
And-
like, "Where the fuck's I want to see that spider?" And then you got to go down that.
Yeah, is that Shelob? I'm sure a lot of people would have said that too.
That's true,
And-
because it's always stuff you can refer back to, right? Like
Yeah.
you always double back and tell those tales
Yeah,
again or something like that.
They could always fill in
so-
the cracks, absolutely. So, what's
Oh, I was gonna
this
say, Tay, I
checklist?
saw you searching. Were you searching on the HBO Max YouTube, like Philip put in the chat there?
Who put in the chat? I
In
didn't
the
look at
chat, in the
comments there.
YouTube comments, HBO Max just dropped the first episode of House of Dragons on YouTube. Pettiness is real. Legitimately, the full
Nice.
hour-long episode is on YouTube
It's
for
actually
free.
on YouTube. That's not
Yeah,
gonna
it's
last
crazy.
long.
Oh, who's this person? Who's this person?
Oh, Tyler,
I'll
look
let
at
you
that.
take it, yeah.
Left my house. He says, "I think Ungoliant drank from the light of the trees, and that's how she grew so big." That's definitely possible. I wasn't
So
sure if
roids.
she started. That's basically what's in the trees,
They're
right?
selling
It
that.
was-
They're just shooting it up. Like, oh yeah,
It's straight light. Oh, it hits so hard.
yeah.
Um,
Their eyes are just like, you use it, man? No.
No, man, I'm good.
No
Yeah,
juice,
I'm
all
clean.
natural.
Just last thing on like that opening, because we already talked about it. I thought they did such a fantastic job at just like explaining these events to like a general
Yes,
audience
I
member.
agree.
You know, like this is where the elves come from. Like it's a very weird idea that they just come from this nether realm that's not Earth. And I think they did a really good job at just like breaking it down very easily. As I mentioned, like they left Ungoliant out. It's probably such a smart idea. Like they left out things that aren't crucial to like what you need to know for this stuff.
Yeah, which is smart because they're already throwing a bunch of shit at us already.
Yeah,
So.
well,
Yeah,
enough-
you don't have to
enough
get into the
word salad.
details of like Finrod versus Sauron. Like it's so like okay,
Oh, give it to
Finrod
me.
died directly from Sauron, and you know maybe
they should have showed that in my opinion.
well
That would've
maybe
been
you
hype,
could do a
know?
flashback thing, right?
Yeah, true.
And
Yeah.
there's no reason why they can't going forward, whether it's even
remember
in the
you.
season 2.
Just like I killed your
Um,
fucking brother in the big. scene and everything.
But yes,
Every season's got to have a prequel from hundreds of years ago, of course.
Yep.
So.
100%.
that'd be so and I would eat it up because they all look good always.
But like, I guess it would be the equivalent of like aliens just living, like landing on Earth, being like, yeah, we were at this planet and now we're here. Our planet died and we're just here to hang out. And
Yeah.
'cause obviously, it's different because it's a world, but back then it's like you just have this race of people that just come over because like yeah, and plus like it'd be suspicious, right? Of like obviously again, then it spreads to Middle Earth, so they probably believe them. But at first, it's like, oh yeah, our entire home got destroyed, but we're just gonna come here now. You'd be like, I don't, I don't know how I feel about this situation.
So, I mean, since we're talking about this whole intro prologue scenario,
Yeah,
just
sorry, I took us here.
no, don't be sorry. Like that, just like this is when I was in the zone. I was like, oh, this is just outstanding. Because then all of a sudden we get like this fleet of elven ships like scooping across the ocean, and then we get the Sundaring Sea, and then it jumps to the eagles, and I'm pretty sure those were fell
Yeah,
beasts.
that
Like I was
was-
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
That was a
oh,
hype.
And
Oh,
whoever
I
is
can't
like,
handle
why
this.
didn't they take the eagles to the Mount Doom
now
to
we know
destroy the
why.
ring? Now
They
you
got
know.
Fucked
So,
up. That thing was.
Thank
That
you,
was me
Amazon,
last
for
week
showing us.
because
Yeah.
again, Return of the King, the Eagles fuck them up. Okay,
That's true.
That's fair.
They,
blame
they
Peter
waited.
Jackson.
They
Don't blame
waited
me.
1,000. That's why they didn't come back to fight. They waited 1,000 years and like strategized. Like next time
You
we
got
see
my,
them,
you got my
Yeah.
Jimbo, my big
yeah,
Jimbo.
built
we're
stronger
gonna mess up
talons.
these.
They weren't going in
guys.
with the elves. That was their thing. We're gonna go with man next time because they
Yeah.
got beat up here.
We went the elves. They got fucked up. That's what
Yeah, didn't give us enough juice.
But the visuals of it, man, God, it looks so good.
Oh yeah, I just wanted that whole like I would have been down if the whole episode would have just been that. I know it wouldn't have been, but if it was just that whole battle, I was like, yeah, just
I would have
It's
been
easy
even more
money.
jealous of Dylan and watching it in the big
yeah,
screen.
100%, yeah. But there's definitely gonna be some battles because then did anyone watch like the season 3 preview? At one point, Galadriel was like a bunch of people riding on horses. So
Season 3.
Yeah.
Oh my
or
God.
Wow, that's a step
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I already got the first two.
Is that on
seasons.
YouTube with House of the
I-
Dragon?
yeah.
I think she's charging in with some Numenorians there, so I'm very excited for that team up. So
Yeah, I'm excited for. I don't know if it fits in this age, but I know they are going to do like they're going to have to at some point do a Game of Thrones s like big battle episode, and I'm very excited with this budget to see what they
Mhm.
can pull off and do and things like that.
especially
so.
if we're seeing great eagles, fell beasts, stuff like that. My gosh.
Oh yeah,
Even like the big
Giant
monster
spider.
in this one, like the Loch Ness monster, like
Yeah.
that all look good, right?
Ooh, the worm.
Jaws,
Yeah.
Jaws
Weird.
vibes, 100%.
yeah. But Kurt, what do you think about the storyline
Yeah.
that we started with?
Yes, thanks for taking us back. I was kind of lost there, lost in the weeds. Arondir, yeah, I quite like it honestly. I think mostly because I love that whole dynamic of having this elf like in a human village and he's just totally treated as an outcast. Because again, it just made me think of The Witcher.
Yeah.
And I think that dynamic is something very interesting because it's very different. You'd think like this big monster slayer would be like the hero, that's the paladin, saves us all, but like they're just looked at like freaks, like no, we're better off without you. And the way that just the townsfolk were kind of treating this elf, obviously it's terrible, but it's an interesting dynamic because it's something that you probably wouldn't necessarily think about, and obviously it's not shown like at all in the Peter Jackson trilogy. You see dwarves don't really like elves, and that's kind of it. Everybody else is kind of friendly, but I feel like this is a fairly, like I don't know. I want to say realistic, but like I don't think that's the best type of word to use there. Just something that's not so kindergarten, you know. And like not everyone's on the same side here. People definitely have their grievances, and I think it's some layers. And then you throw in the love dynamic. I don't know if I'm a sucker for like that forbidden love thing, but it's really working for me here, and it's really worked for me with the Aragorn thing. So maybe I am just a sucker for it, but it's definitely working. And I just love this area. I like the little village that they're in. It looks just again very dark and again very Witcher-like. A lot of that area just reminded me of that. But having this dynamic of like a Sindarin elf, which if you didn't know, it's like he's obviously this very similar to what Legolas would kind of look like. So he's from that sort of sphere of the elves.
Is he gonna skateboard? Are we gonna see that?
We'll see. Maybe Orlando Bloom introduced that in his era. because I don't think Legolas would be born yet. He probably is like a wee lad in this era if he is born right now, I would imagine. I'm
He
curious
might not
if
be legally be able to be born yet as well in
Yeah.
this show because they
No,
now
yeah,
the
right.
Racer group. You can only go so far legally now, so.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then, yeah, like the whole thing with the blade, that was very, very interesting. I'm so excited to jump back into that
Yeah.
stuff. So I think if that wasn't in it, like with the blade and the orc scene, oh my God, that was terrifying. But like if that was out of it, that probably would have been my least favorite storyline so far. But I'm just so fascinated on what's going on with that blade. Because again, it's getting that Morgul blade vibes, right? Like why is this
Yeah.
here? This guy's kind of tripping out seeing that Sauron symbol. So I'm very, very fascinated in that storyline.
It's taking
And
his blood.
yeah, it's like drawing power from him. So who knows? I could see this guy kind of having to turn from it, right? Like it could just kind of take him over. Obviously, we've seen Sauron do that with the Nazgul. Like he makes his
Yeah.
own kind of warriors there.
He becomes
so.
the mouth of Sauron.
Damn it, you took my joke. You fucking ass. I was just about to say he was going to go on the mouth of Sauron.
It's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. Yeah. No, that stuff's really intriguing because I have no idea, and that's why I was on review theories and stuff. But I love that. Okay, it's just like we're seeing a little blade. You got the very ring like whisperings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm very down to see where this goes. And yeah, it could maybe not end well for some of our characters there. But yeah, I can't wait to see what they do because I'm always down this kind of witchcraft stuff. So
And that particular scene with the orc, like just creeping up on the
Oh,
house,
great.
that puts that scene of like that one orc chasing Merry and Pippin in Fangorn Forest, just like a kindergarten scene compared to this. This one was so
I
much
agree.
scarier. Like it just like it had a horror element, right? Like I thought this was some werewolf crawling up from like the basement on this guy.
Well, because
it
anytime
was
we've
so terrifying.
met orcs before, for the majority of the time, they're usually in the presence of ass kickers. Like even if the hobbits
Yeah.
are around, there's somebody that could kick their ass to save the hobbits. This is the first time where you just have a woman and a child who look like they probably have no fighting ability, and that's
Right.
why I was like, "Is
They
this
did
just
pretty
gonna-"
good.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, like on an Inception though, we didn't know that they were
Oh,
gonna be able
yeah.
to kick its ass. We just thought this orc could break in and just kill him, right? So with us, they're not soldiers, and that was scary because I thought, oh, is this gonna be more than an orc? But no, it just shows like how one single orc could be very scary. And
It's pretty strong too, eh? Like
yeah.
threw that table across, knocked
Oh,
the mom
yeah.
back, and
the
it was
son got
tough
his
to
ass
kill.
kicked. Yeah.
Dig through the dirt, so
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big
pretty
hole.
soul.
Yeah. Oh shit, what was I gonna say? I forgot.
While,
I'll come back
while
to
you're
it later.
thinking, just even like the earlier shot of the orcs, like where you see them like eating something and look over and like the one orc's eyes are just glowing.
Yeah.
The
right,
way that they're
man.
showing the orcs is just so interesting because Peter Jackson's, like I love them, but like compared to what they're showcased in here, they feel a lot more human like in the Peter Jackson ones compared
Yes.
to obviously meat's back on the menu, boys. Like just their dialogue, they seem like
That's
a lot
coming.
more human. Yeah, the menu talk's coming, but everything showcased so far, and it's pretty minimal, but man, was it scary.
Oh, that I want to say because I know my notes forget. The only thing I was confused about is when they were together and they looked at the town. It was riddled with fire and looked very similar to her town where she lived. And she
I was
just
very confused about
She was
that.
so nonchalant. I'm like, your fucking son's down there, and you're like, there's no bodies down there. And like, what do you mean? Like, get down there. Like, what's? And then they eventually explain it's some like sister town. But I was very confused for that 5 minutes of like, where is this and where are the people and stuff? And then they clarified. But that was maybe an editing issue I had with this episode. That moment there. So.
Another thing I was shook with was like when she like found her son and then like hears a monster coming and she like bolted to the door. It's like, I guess I shouldn't leave my son, and then like stayed with him. I was like, she was totally gonna leave him. My gosh,
Yep.
yeah, she was scared straight.
I'm liking the storyline so far. I think Travis, I totally understand your reservation. For me, it's just the writing and the acting from those two characters like is going well so far. So I think that's where I'm at. There are a couple things we can talk about when they come up that writing wise I thought were a bit weak at certain moments. But this was definitely not one of them. So I think that's where I'm down for the ride at this point. So I'm curious to see where that goes because I'm guessing that those orcs were trying to find that blade specifically, and since he brought it with them, that they're going to keep getting tracked and hunted down. And as you guys mentioned, I hadn't thought about it, but I could totally see him getting turned, getting like corrupted and all that stuff. So I'm curious to see where they go, right? Because as you mentioned, the two towns look very similar, and that was the one that she grew up in, the other one that was already burned down. So I don't know where they're going to go next. I wonder if it's going to be somewhere that other characters that we already know about are. That would maybe seem unlikely. I'm guessing they're going to go to another man-made town.
Well, they
man-made city.
pitched. She pitched like, oh,
The Elven
we should go to the
Tower.
Watchtower.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
Watchtower.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
a
that's
good
where
point.
they're going. And they're like,
I guess
"Fuck
that
the
same
elves."
one that we saw a clip of, right? The one we were just talking about. Would it be that same
Mhm.
one?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the good thing is, like, because there is still, like I say, only, but still, and these episodes, I guess I should mention, full actual hour episodes, both of them, stuff like that. None of those 15-minute credits. So Amazon always give them that. But this sort of thing could not even be resolved this season. You know, like you get more hints about it, but it could even be delayed for a little bit. But Taylor, I was gonna say, if you bring the sword around, they're chasing him. It's much like Billy in Jurassic Park 3. You know, you gotta just leave the sword. Don't take it with you. Even then, like, how did he? I imagine he's a stupid kid, so he just like found it and stuff. But how did he find it? How did he keep talking to?
He's
him?
trying
How
to
get
fund
there?
the new dig for the 10
Yeah,
more
then,
years.
yeah. Well, they were digging, so he's like, look at these guys. I should be working with them. You know.
I got maybe a couple questions here. So, well, maybe one. I don't know if I'm concerned about this, but I don't know about the idea that both Arondir and Galadriel both have the storyline of them choosing not to go to Valinor. But my question also is like, what exactly quantifies you to get passage back to Valinor? Because it seems like anytime any sort of minor squabble is resolved, it's like, okay, you did it, you can go now, and like they're just getting rid of potentially like some of the best like warriors around at the drop of a hat, which seems like a strange choice to me. So I'm curious if you have some clarification on what exactly grants you passage back.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to tell, especially with just how much time is passing. But like Galadriel was born in the year of the trees, like before the first age was even made. So she has been around for actually a long time, even up until this point. Like she fought in that entire like first age war.
But it seems kind of random what grants her access back, you know?
Yeah, I think
she's
like
found
in
this
this
one
moment,
tomb
like
and,
they
like,
just
okay,
kind of
see
believe
ya.
that Sauron's dealt with. So it's like
Okay.
we don't have war anymore. Like they already had that ceremony, right, where Gil-galad is stressing that we won't be like we're in a time of peace. And was he wrong? He has no idea what's going to come.
Nope, it's just me then. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Well, it's weird because
What happened?
no one else is cutting out but you. But then they'll
Just
respond
me?
to you. So yeah, just
Oh.
you for me. The other
It's just
two.
Dylan for me. Dylan's cutting
Okay,
up
so
for
we're
me.
all, so
Oh,
we
God.
got a
No one's
weird-
cutting out for me.
Okay, because Dylan responded to
Everything
Kirklin, so
sounds
that's
great
where
to
it's
me,
like,
too.
okay, it must be the Wi-Fi.
Let's
so.
just do us alone, Dylan, you and I.
Yeah, so
Must
if
be
you
that
hear
Kelowna
anything,
Wi-Fi
And,
over in West
like, it-
County,
yeah,
too.
just felt like they wanted to get rid of her too. Of like, oh, let's just send her back because
Yeah,
that
for
guy
sure.
said of like, oh yeah, she.
That one
Sure.
makes more sense, but
Yeah.
Arondir also, my question for him seems kind of random too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I don't fully get it to like, clear as mud or clear as water as the saying goes, but like because they've just gone through so much, like they've just fought in so many wars, like he has served 79 years. That's not that long for an elf, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming he's done a lot like before now. I think this is a new character because I've never heard of him before. But yeah, it seems interesting that they were just sending him away. It's like a retirement plan there. I'm sure there's like a direct example on what you would qualify there, but like to my knowledge, it's mostly for people that came, or elves that came from Valinor. They've done their deed, and then now like their reward is sailing back to the Undying Lands. That's why it's such a big deal when like Elrond is able to go because he's just not needed anymore. Like their time is up. Like they can go on to their quote unquote heaven that they're going to.
He
the
could have
land
said
of the
no,
Undying
though,
Lands.
like Arwen, right? He could have said no.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't think he would have, because that's another thing that's again not easily seen in this, is that like Galadriel is a lot older than what Elrond is. Like they look like they've been around, they graduated together, that sort of thing. But like I believe he was born in the first age. I could be wrong on that, but I believe because I'm pretty sure like his grandparents were the ones that like fled from Gondolin when that got messed up in the first age, so he wouldn't have even been born then. And Galadriel, of course, as I already said, was born in the year of the trees. So like the ages are all over the place. Same with like Gil-galad, like he's obviously one of those big head honchos that came from the year of the trees, which if you didn't know what that was, that's when like the two trees that they show at the beginning, that was the source of light in the world. There was no sun. It was just there was a tree for the light, tree for nighttime, and they were just like going back and forth. And then obviously Morgoth put an end to that, and that's
Wow.
what started the first age.
Kirkland, can you answer this?
Crazy
Where did
shit,
that
man.
spider go after, anyways?
Where the hell did Ungoliant go after that, anyways? I don't fully know. As I believe the Balrogs like came and defended their master Morgoth.
Whoa.
Yeah, look at that creeper.
Yeah, no thanks.
Try and find a bigger image where like she's literally the size of like an Earth. Yeah,
Oh,
like look at
that's
that,
pretty
and that would be
scary.
Morgoth, and
That one dude
Morgoth
standing
is
there.
Morgoth is a monster. Like Taylor, if you can find like huge. So yeah, that's
Oh,
actually a
there's
good
the Balrogs,
representation.
too.
So
Wow.
that's the Balrogs coming to save their master. Inaccurately because they don't have wings, but that's okay.
I wonder. Right. I wonder what
Shut
they.
down, artists.
I wonder exactly
Try
what
again
they
next
own.
I
for
get it why they put
characters.
wings in. The wings look cool, okay,
Yeah.
but you know, not.
I
accurate.
wonder what they own for characters and rights, because I hope if the show's popular, all that stuff they're talking about with Morgraph and like the beginning, and everything, it's getting worse.
If it's
getting
easier,
worse.
you could say Melkor.
Cole
That's also
McGrath.
his name.
No, but like I want this show. Like that's what I want next. You know, like I want
Yeah.
this story of Morgraph. So
Look.
am I saying it wrong now? What is it again?
Absolutely.
Morgoth.
Morgoth.
Or
More
Melkor.
Morgoth. There you go. But
Morgoth.
Melkor
yeah,
is his actual name, and then Morgoth is the name that the elves gave
I'm
him,
gonna call
which
him his
means like
actual name.
dark foe.
Morgoth. So yeah, I want this whole battle. But yeah, that's cool. So
Yeah, and like I don't fully understand where she went because I thought that they just put an end to her, but who knows? Maybe she's. I
Oh,
feel like
just
she's too
jump
big
to another
to.
planet or something. I don't think
Yeah,
she is.
it's pretty accurate. Maybe she's on Earth or on the moon.
can they swim?
Maybe she
What if
is a
she
moon.
fell into some water?
I don't know. I feel like I didn't
Just
know Galadriel
drown?
could swim, but she's a world record swimmer after this
Yeah.
episode, right?
Oh my
Well,
God,
we'll get
so
into
cool.
that after this next ad break. And we're back. Yeah, she was because I thought what was gonna happen is maybe these people would disappear off the boat, and then she would have the boat to herself. But no, she just decided to swim back, and very bold play, especially once we learn about this like creature in the water. Very bold play, and then we meet like I don't know, generic white guy number one that she's gonna bang, and I like that, and I like Galadriel's storyline more in episode 1 than I did 2, because 2 was mostly just like action stuff going on, and I thought I liked it, but nothing. I liked the worm creature enough too, but even to me, like the orc in the tunnel had more impact than that did, you know, for me. So yeah. Oh, Tyler says she fled to Mordor, then eventually devoured herself. Ugh.
Oh, look at that.
Damn.
Why would she devour herself?
That's
She's
metal.
just
It
that
It
hungry.
says she had an ever-growing hunger, but she ended up breeding with the great spiders that dwelt there, and that's where like Shelob comes into play. And Shelob was the last of her descendants.
Damn.
Whoa.
and- yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good little history dive there. I like that.
There we go. Yeah. Thank you, Chad.
Anything else on around here? I know I totally veered us in a different direction. I apologize.
Ready for a cool ass kicking scene. That's what I am. Like when he's put in with a bunch of orcs.
Skateboarding.
I want to see, yeah, on the orc's head. Yeah. He's like dribbling.
I
with
hope
it,
so. I
and
hope
he's,
they
like,
just didn't kill him
big
off.
kicks. That would be crazy.
Just one and done. He's just.
I liked a
Oh,
lot of those
God.
shots like they had with the snow troll at the very beginning, and I love that when he was back, just like it looked like cobwebs, but then they slowly started to move and grab him. There's a couple good like blending of creature with
Yeah,
area.
100%.
Really like that. Yeah.
With the wolf, specifically with the Harfoots, that was a good
Mhm.
one. The hand that you mentioned. Yeah, they did a really good job of playing with those shots. I appreciate it. I hope that carries forward.
Yes, and I liked that when the orc was walking around in the house, they didn't do like a big jump scare music. There was like
I was
scare music.
expecting it.
Me too. And I was like, I don't go for this. This is lame. Like I don't want this in Lord of the Rings, and they didn't, and I appreciate that.
Bear McCreary would never do such a thing.
No,
Beautiful
yeah, of
scores.
course. Howard Shore's like, I'll do it. No, but where do we want to go to next?
Let's go some dwarves, maybe
Let's
some
go.
Yes.
Khazad-dûm. This was something I was honestly like one of the definitely Galadriel and the elves stuff, but I think this is like number 2 of my hype and excitement going into the show because as I stated in the retro that we went through, I felt like the dwarves are, pretty cool in the Peter Jackson, but unfortunately I feel like they kind of just, specifically with Gimli, like he might just fall a little bit in that comedic relief type role,
Yes.
whereas I feel like the dwarves are so much more interesting when you like learn about them, and I have surface level knowledge on them, so I was really excited jumping in the show. And I mean, just seeing like everything from Khazad-dûm like actually being like popping off with like a lot of population and everything. Their specific like the way that they manipulate the light to like target their crops so they can grow things,
that
like
was so
all of
cool.
those little details that just like how their society functions, whether it's their like that test of endurance, that game that they
Yeah. Oh,
play, all the way down to just like their like doormen and like their specific garb that they're wearing.
Yes.
Like just to see all these dwarves working as like a kingdom is something so new that I haven't seen before in the world of Lord of the Rings, and I don't think I've been disappointed yet. Yet because like just the visuals of what we've seen so far has been awesome, and I really like the dynamic with like Dissa, is that her name? Disa or something like that.
Doran's wife.
Darren's
you're
wife.
correct.
She's awesome. I love her like charisma and stuff, and I hope we get like quite a lot of the dwarves, honestly, in the show. I want to go back to Khazad-dûm because it just looked fantastic. I hope I hope it's not the only time that we see them, but yeah, no, I think everything that we've seen so far with the dwarves, I've been pretty happy with, and I'm very excited to see what's in that chest.
When is Khazad-dûm mentioned in Lord of the Rings again? Because the name's familiar.
The
Yeah,
bridge
it
of
is.
Khazad-dûm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
so
Mines of
Moria
Moria.
like ties into Khazad-dûm.
Oh, like it's
The Mines of
same
Moria.
place?
When they
Yeah,
said
so the
that,
Mines
they
of Mo-
said Durin, I did the Leo, like, oh, I know what they're talking about here.
Yeah, I remember
One
the
of
name
things,
Durin.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would. That's what like when had some friends over. We were speculating on like when Elrond arrives on like if is he going to Durin's Gate because that's the passage that the elves would use, right? Yeah.
Sorry, is Tyler being serious? I don't know why I just took this
He was at my
sexual-
watch party. We were joking about that when they open it up. He's gonna see Durin's beads in there. It's gonna be
I like
Durin's
that
anal
Taylor
beads.
had to ask, is he being serious?
I don't know. Maybe he's got some like legendary
think
beads he mined or something.
The
I don't
plots
know.
of Ring of Power is gonna reform around Durin's family's
rings-
beads. But
beads
I was
of
gonna
power.
I was gonna ask you though because you said you didn't want Gimli.
God, Taylor.
You didn't want Gimli being like just for the comedic relief. That's what Durin, the Prince Durin, like he kind of became the back half of this episode though. Like everything once he got
Yeah.
in that house, it was joke filled, and I
Definitely.
100% fine with it. I agree with you. Probably next to I might even go that I think I have the Hobbits first and then the dwarves and Galadriel because like I said, second episode for me was just kind of just fine. I'm excited for her to get back on land because I want to see more of that. But I loved like the set, like the dwarves when I felt really in love with them because I liked them enough in the movies was for Battle for Middle Earth when you could choose the dwarves to be your
Right.
war and you get to build all their stuff and see all the just like the weaponry they would also have to like man these guys are badass and there's like
Yeah.
even there too that's what sucked about the Hobbits to me there was like always something really close to being great about the dwarves in there but Jackson just couldn't nail it so I'm down for them to be a massive component and this was the first time where I didn't dislike Elrond but I just didn't really connect with him like I did with other characters. This was the first time I was actually connecting with him when he was having that conversation with Durin about like, you know, you've been gone for 20 years. For you, that's just
Yeah.
like a, you know, a slice of your life. For me, that is my life. And that was a whole good thing. He felt remorseful. So I was finally starting to warm up to him then. So everything about the dwarves, the setting and the CGI looked great of Khazad-dûm. Like it just looked fantastic. Level lore. So I hope it's not just a one done. I don't even know because we didn't even get Elrond's real pitch. Right?
Well, I think he's gonna try and get them to like build what Celebrimbor wants him to
they're
build.
master
So,
builders
and
and
that's
stuff,
why I
yeah.
think that we are gonna be seeing more dwarves.
Nice.
I don't know. I don't think this will just be a wasted effort there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the thing I was maybe the most excited to see. At least just like a living dwarven mine. I really wanted to see, and yeah, I liked the energy in there. The humor I think is mostly working for me. I'm enjoying it, but I think if that is what the dwarves are, is just comic relief characters, I think I'll be disappointed. I want to see some different kinds of dwarves and see some. I want to see some good dwarf on dwarf conversation. You know, not just in the presence of elves who are always going to be more straight and to the point, and then dwarves are like the silly ones. I will say the theater was eating it up. They absolutely loved all those dwarf
Oh,
sequences,
yeah.
just cracking up.
Gimli's
all
a
the way
big hit with the
through,
GA,
so-
you know. I feel like people love
Mhm.
dwarfs. You know, I feel like everyone would want a dwarf. You
Yeah.
know,
But yeah, I love.
Everyone wants a dwarf.
if you
Put
could
in my
be friends
pocket.
with a
Take 'em home.
Yeah, their own pocket.
but if someone started at your work day and they were a dwarf, you'd be like, I'm gonna go talk to that guy. I bet he's lots of fun. You know, he'd be great
As
to
an
get on
Elder
the
Scrolls
podcast.
person, we do want the dwarves. The disappearance of dwarves
Yes.
is a big hot topic in that community. So,
Yeah.
I love the design of, I mean everything, but also just their house specifically. I liked that touch that he gave him the sapling of this tree that is growing in like this just little patch of light and it's somehow thriving. The like huge chairs they had at their table. I love that the two kids were like playing with the helmets,
Oh,
the
yeah, it
masks,
was
or
great,
statues,
yeah.
whatever they were, and they're just chasing each other around.
He
That was
like
so
lifts their
cute.
head and it like hits the wall when he's like
Yeah.
carrying them out and stuff like that.
I feel
Yeah.
like already in between like the Galadriel's kind of setup and back when she back when she was a kid, like the kids in this already have way more personality than we ever got with any of the Hobbits or Lord of the Rings movies. And I mean, it's not much. It's not like huge character development or anything, but I like that we're at a point where we can kind of see more of that. So it makes it feel like a more well-rounded world and makes it feel more realistic once again. So yeah, I'm very much into it, and I'm excited to see more of these characters because I remember I can remember a couple other scenes from the trailers that we haven't got yet. So hopefully those are pretty good, and I'm excited to see this particular mission. I'm sure we'll talk about Elrond specifically next in that mission, but I'm really into that. That's a great hook for me. So yeah, loving that section of it.
So yeah, and if you're a dwarf from the Third Age, we're looking for you to come on the podcast and everything like that. You know, so
What? Sorry, quick question. The lifespan of a dwarf, is it just like a regular man lifespan? I thought they lived longer.
No,
I feel like, yeah,
because
longer, yeah.
well, young Durin said to old Durin that he's known Elrond for over half a century.
That's true, yeah.
Is that what he said? Yeah,
yeah, something
like
like
that.
that. Yeah.
So I would say hundreds of years.
I
Probably
trust-
not immortal like what the elves are, because the elves just can't die of like
He made
natural
it sound
means.
like 20 years though was like
I know
a
that's what was
significant chunk
weird.
of his life, but I guess it was just like that's a big events in his life. happening,
He
right?
just got his kids in that time frame, I would imagine, and like saw them
and
grow
wedding.
up.
He missed the
Yeah.
wedding.
So that's a lot. But yeah, it was weird to like say that, but then also say that he's known Elrond for half a century.
Plus, it's still like for us, like compared to like a dog, where it's like a dog could be around for 12, 15 years, and that's still a big chunk of our life. But for them, that's like
Yeah.
their whole life. So that's why I take it as like, even though the dwarf can live longer, that's still like a lot. Like the elf can live, even the elves can technically
Yeah.
not die, right? It's like they could be immortal pretty much. Where you know. he
Well,
can
even
go,
I mean,
yeah.
Durin. So I guess we know that he's at least 50 here, but he doesn't look that. I mean, I guess he looks like he could be 50, but I don't know.
I took it as
I'm
like
assuming
a
maybe a
70,
couple
80-year-old
hundred
dwarf.
years, but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I took it. Yeah, I took it at least he's early hundreds or something like that. I could be wrong. Yeah.
Dwarves, I eat that stuff up all day long. Like the dwarf humor works for me in every iteration of Lord of the Rings, Hobbit. Like it's fantastic. And again, I loved it all in here. It was great. I loved how emotional it got at times. Again, the dialogue you touched upon, Travis, with Elrond and Durin here, it was fantastic. So yeah, I'm so all over this, and I love their challenge too. Like it didn't feel
yeah.
like we're just getting here and they're all about like their food and their drinking. I thought they were gonna do a drinking game, but no.
Me too, because there's cups.
There were
there.
cups on
Yeah.
those stands,
And
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
like, okay,
no.
this fits, and then it got real serious. I thought
It
they were
got
gonna
really
fight at one point too.
serious.
I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, so I love that so very much. I like how he conceded and he just kept like playing like the right card to just take the next chance and the next chance, and it finally paid off. I love getting in the house there. I love seeing, okay, like first time I think I've ever seen like female dwarfs before in like Lord of the Rings, which is super cool. Just it felt like, okay, this is a whole world that is lacked. We got little bits of it in The Hobbit, like a dwarven army and that little bit of city stuff. But again, it wasn't like you mentioned, Travis. Like it wasn't like honed in. Most of the time, it's just an abandoned dwarven cities. Mostly, like we got in
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, and that just seems to be the theme in most cases. Even with Skyrim, you go into like a dwarven city, it's just completely abandoned. I love dwarves, and I want to see like the culture and this archetype and like their world, and now we finally get to see it in this, and it's just fantastic. We got the reference of salted pork as well, which is great. So
You take all my shit tonight. Well, Sauron, I love that. That was the first thing
He
Elrond
never left the
mentioned.
menu.
Yeah, salted pork, and I was like,
Yeah.
these dwarves love salted pork. It keeps coming
Oh,
up in
yeah.
these things, you know. So,
yeah, it's so great.
Kirk, I'm gonna have to test you again because that's what Nikki's doing. Is a tree year 9 regular years? Does that sound right to you?
It sounds right. It's either 7 or 9, but I think 9's. It's
It's like a dog
Yeah.
year sort of thing, right?
I
No, it's-
and
it's-
it might be like 9.5 or
Is this for,
something,
like,
where it's like slightly off.
Is this for like ants or is something else?
It's
No.
just like in the year of the trees. So like year of the tree 15, that would be like the equivalent. You would have times that by like 9.5
so 15
regular
times
years.
Oh.
9.5
Jesus
15.
Christ.
Jesus,
Yeah.
algebra moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us
Check
in the
maths.
chat what that answer is.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that, but she's definitely in the right ballpark there.
Yeah. Anything else on the dwarves?
Yeah, like you brought up a good point with the like there is still some comedy relief with the characters. I feel like maybe that's just the what's the best word I'm looking for? Just like that type of vibe that the dwarves bring of just like
I think
hardy
so.
folk that like have those
Yes.
jokes and whatnot, and sometimes are the butt end of the joke. But I think I'm pretty optimistic going forward that we are gonna get some good serious stuff, especially just with where like the two Durins were
I was gonna
discussing at
say,
the end,
yeah.
because that was very serious, right? And he was kind of showing him a little secret of his own, which I don't know. If I had put my chip somewhere, I would say that is the Arkenstone, because obviously that was
I
so
would love
important
that.
to Thorin in the events of The Hobbit. And yeah, that'd be fantastic, because that hasn't been mentioned since that event, right? I guess
Well,
it was buried with him, so
yeah.
that makes sense.
That's what I loved about like the ending. It was presenting all these mysteries, like the sword and then the orc, and I love that it got like, oh, why are they here now? And he's like, what do you mean? Like they could come at any point, but why are they here right now this time? And they never would specifically say what it was about. Even the box, they don't show us that, and just talking about how, oh, we're the axe and they're just holding it. We're the the head of it and stuff. And he's like, well, let's hope
Yeah.
it stays that way. That was giving me nice House of Dragon vibes. Like, oh, there's some sneaky shit going on here, and I like that. I feel like King Durin's gonna make Prince Durin do some things in the future that he may not agree or like, and that's where some real juice is gonna come in there. So I'm very intrigued by the dwarves.
Yep. Where are we going
sorry,
next?
Taylor, I thought you were gonna say something.
No, I already said dwarf
Okay,
stuff.
let's do Elrond, because I don't have much to say on Elrond. I liked his scenes with Galadriel. I actually wish they had a couple more. I don't think it's necessarily the actor. I think it's just like even the guy, what was his name, like Cromwell Burrow or whatever it was, this king. Like they're like, look who I have. There was only one time where the show looked bad and looked like on the volume where he like was walking down. It's like none of this shit is real behind you. Like this is not like, especially when the rest of the show looks so good. When there's a shot that stands out, it really stands out. But yeah, I guess I care about Elrond now with the dwarves, but up in that point, he just felt like an exposition machine for Galadriel, for that other guy. Who was he with? He had a really bad wig. He was the one that found the leaf and it was turning black, and he was looking.
Oh,
he was
Gil-galad,
yeah. He
the
had
High
a
King.
terrible wig, terrible wig. So I wasn't like. Now even talking about it, I might actually put Elrond's stuff at the bottom. The only thing that doesn't make me get there is because I liked his back and forth with the dwarves. So I'm hoping that continues. But I think it was good to have him here, but it's not like Galadriel where I'm really invested in him. And I like Elrond in the original trilogy and stuff. So I'm waiting maybe a bit more from the actor, the writing team, to give him a better scene where I could really enjoy this character. Just kind of feel like, oh, that's Elrond. Yeah, we know him. So yeah.
I like the setup that he's kind of rising the ranks here in the political world of the elves, and I like that he's just like writing the speech that he's given to the elves before they sail to Valinor. I think that was like just a fun role to give him. Like it's a very interesting task that he was given, and I like that he's kind of pointed to Calabronius, whatever that guy is.
Celebrimbor.
Calaspinaruni.
Calaspinaruni. I think it wasn't a wig for me, but Gilgaborn. I'm sorry, these names.
Gil-galad. You'll get it. You'll get it. Don't worry. Eight
More
episodes or whatnot?
goth. More.
This was the one. This is the one character that I feel like didn't do much for me. There's just something about him that I'm not captivated by yet. So I'm curious to see where he goes and if he has any layers to him. Because I don't know. It seems like he maybe has like a bit of a sinister edge to him. But maybe it's just because sometimes elves are very literal and they are just very stone-faced and they just don't show any emotion. Where at least I like that Elrond was a bit more lighthearted and jovial. So yeah, I'm liking the character so far. I'm curious to see where this kind of political stuff of the elves comes in, because I think building this great forge like that sounds like it's going to be a fun setup. I think I'm into that. But if we're going back to this guy who's leading these elves, I mean, and just doing political stuff, that could definitely that could miss. So I hope they don't. I'm curious to see that.
You go ahead,
Oh,
Taylor.
the double lip slap. The double. Look at that. Yeah. ASMR people are liking that episode.
I'm just gonna put it out there, plain as day, that Elven King, he is fucking sus. That is some camera magic that they're showing off there. Like I feel like they intentionally made him out to just something's going on there. Like he's doing something like, oh, Galadriel's like into Sauron here. We need to get her out of here because she's gonna like ruin the plan. So I think he's in cahoots or something to some degree. And as far as the master builder goes, I really am liking his character. I like as brief of it as it was in episode 2, his dynamic with Elrond. Really liked how they had their like discussions, and he's talking about the hammer and everything like that, and just building the forge. Really like that. It's just getting me super, super excited to see what comes out of that. And Elrond is just a character. I'm really, really enjoying his I don't know, his political side, I guess, because I only ever knew him as being this military leader charging the plains of Mordor. And
I'm surprised you say that. I still feel like he's pretty political in the Lord of the Rings movie. Like he's one that.
think
No,
we've
I
seen
didn't
a lot
even-
of different stuff.
I didn't feel like he was necessarily political in Lord of the Rings. I just felt like he was just like this simple, like, again, he was a former like
He
battle.
sets up the whole voting meeting on what we're gonna do at the ring. Like he is the head.
Yeah, but
honcho for all that.
he just feels like
connects
just like
with
a
everyone.
leader like that, not necessarily like a political like character like he is in this. It's just like I can see what you're saying. Like there's a political aspect to that, but it still feels very
Very.
different. And again, I like that. I like seeing this side where he's not the leader. He's not in control over everything. He's got to abide by rules and abide by these higher ranking elves and stuff like that in his culture. And just seeing his excitement to helping shape Middle Earth a little bit more for when the elves, I guess, come to leaving this place. So yeah.
Yeah, I really like Elrond in this. This is really exciting for me seeing him like where he's like earning his stripes, you know, because like obviously where we see him in Fellowship, like he is the guy, he is the main guy.
The main
and
political guy, right?
The War Master. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Leader of
exactly.
votes.
And like it's so fun, like just again like seeing him like again do his like apprenticing, like being like Gil-galad's like #1 guy, and like just earning that right to go work with like his childhood hero, which is Celebrimbor, like the master craftsman. And I think that's just gonna be so fun, like having this character that we know where he ends up, you know, we see him like in Rivendell,
coward.
obviously all that stuff. But like to just see him where he is right now in the Second Age. And again, I've mentioned that so many times, I'm just such a sucker for like seeing things like so far
What?
away in the chronological order.
See, you're a sucker for seeing things. You
Just
said
Your
seeing
elf
things in
eyes.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but like something like whether it's The Hobbit and you have Bilbo touching this ring that like one day Frodo will be holding to throw into the rings of fire, rings of Mount Doom. And then here you have the character of Elrond, which is thousands upon thousands of years, right? So
Yeah.
all that stuff is so interesting and fun to me. With regards to, or I guess a couple last things with Elrond, I love seeing him as this like type of poet character. He's just like very it like, because you don't see all that stuff in the events of Fellowship, right? Like you just see him be this guy that's saying, I was there, Gandalf, you know, men are weak, dropping these like one
Thousands of years
liners.
ago.
Yeah, but like here he's kind of joyous and like has this kind of youthful innocence to him where he's able to kind of joke around and just have fun, where he's just so like miserable by the end of Fellowship and Return of the King, that whole era stuff. But
Trying to kill
Yeah.
Zoltar's kids, pretty much.
yeah. And then jumping to Gil-galad, I was definitely expecting a lot more from this character going into this episode, because like this is the High King of the Noldor, like these group of elves. He's the High King of Lindon. Like that's such a big deal, and I've only really obviously read like certain materials around him. Like I haven't really focused on this character, so I was very excited to jump in on what he's like. And it's kind of disappointing. Like he did, like you guys are completely fair with your judgments that he's not that interesting. He just seems a little sus, which is weird because he really shouldn't be. I definitely think his behavior in that manner is like I can't remember if it was Travis or Dylan that mentioned it, but like you guys were saying, like you're unsure if it's just like the way the elves are, like they're so literal and like just so to the facts, and maybe that is the case, and maybe that's why I saw Dylan giving him credit, like maybe that's why he's just such a good High King, because he doesn't have emotions in that regard. Like he just makes the best decision on what he thinks should be the best decisions for his people, and I'm hoping more of that kind of gets shown in the show, because this guy, like, he's a big deal. He's the last High King of the Noldor.
Right?
He is. He's the last High King of the Noldor. If you didn't know, like he actually was there at the Battle of the Last Alliance. Like he was leading the elves into battle. Him and Elendil both died fighting Sauron, like together. Like it's such a big deal. And then Elrond was his second in command. He was supposed to be the next High King, and he kind of just declined that title. He didn't think that he should be like the High King. He didn't think that there should be a High King. That's why he became just like the Lord of Rivendell. So yeah, because of like the legacy that Gil-galad has, and that he actually like charges Sauron in the events of the Fellowship of the Ring, like the prologue, like you see him on screen. The actor, he is casted in those movies. They don't really ever say his name, but he is there. I was just expecting a lot more, and I didn't get that in this episode. And I'm hopeful that we get more, but I don't know. They didn't have a lot of
being
things.
sent off on his side quest, how much do you think we'll see him?
I know
Not
that's
much.
the thing, right? So
And that's why I think we got like trying to be nice, but kind of like a lower tier actor for this, because I don't think you'll see him much right now. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. If you look at like the actor like side by side between the Fellowship and like this, they look so like dead on. It's pretty impressive that they're able to like match them that well.
Yeah, like I still feel like watching this, they're definitely for the general audience trying to make this feel like a Lord of the Rings prequel, like to the films, right? Like even that
Yeah.
beginning. I'm glad they do it, but it is just like Fellowship, right? So I think that's smart of them to do that. I think like that's why I always thought they'd go with Sauron. So I think that is smart, because I guarantee you over 50% of the people watch this thinking it's Warner Brothers producing this Amazon. Might even think Peter Jackson's directing this thing. You know, like they'll have no. They'll
People
have
start
no.
thanking him for his work on the street. Good
Yeah,
job, Peter Jackson. Your
Or
new
giving them the
series.
fuck yous like they do to George. It's like, what'd you do with Ray? And he's like, I don't know.
I guess I don't know if we really mentioned this, but I'm happy with where we're at in terms of it not feeling too prequel-y, right, in forced
Yes.
ways that The Hobbit was, for example.
Oh,
and
yeah.
obviously we have a huge length of time difference, so it would feel weird to do that stuff. But thankfully, we're not getting a lot of that so far. And definitely things feel like they're homage, but they're more just trying to be consistent, I would say, than they are trying to be directly a prequel thing.
What it feels like, it just feels like it's something that takes place in that world a long time
Yeah.
ago, you know, and that's what, like you mentioned, the Hobbits. The Hobbits was just laying on so thick, where this does feel like, oh, this could be a good companion piece to Lord of the Rings, where Hobbit was just trying to be Lord of the Rings again, pretty much, of like, oh, we're going to mention Aragorn, we're going to show Frodo and Bilbo and stuff like that. And that's why Disney Plus, Lucasfilm just fucking just jump.
I was just thinking
Just
that
do
too.
this
like,
with Star Wars already, please. Just jump tens of thousands of years into Old Republic. Like seeing this, and like I said, I have minor cons to the show, but like I'm still so happy with what we got. And it's like, just please do that, because like that's what I'm liking with the show. You see, one of the things aren't great. I'm sure we might see them at some point, but like Dylan just said, I think it's the right amount of like special sauce. You know, oh yeah, there's this stuff that happens, but really stories right here. The main characters, we're not bringing in Orlando Bloom's Legolas to like fill some time. It's like, no, these are new people. And even Galadriel, it's like we're seeing a whole different new light. Elrond, a pretty much new different light. You know, he was still political, but still a pretty different light. So
I wanted to bring up one connection. I don't know if it's an homage, whatever you want to call it, but I thought it was nice. And I'm gonna totally butcher this quote because I was watching it at a theater, so I
goes,
couldn't
there's
pause. And
too much butter over.
Fuck you. No, but it was just this line when Elrond and engineer guy, I forget his name already.
Spinneroonie.
Sminneroony.
Celebrimbor.
Yeah, Sminneroony.
Spinneroonie,
So
Calvary.
they're talking about that hammer that we mentioned earlier, and it was some line of like, "Oh, what a wonder how such a small thing could have created such a whatever it was." But it reminded me a lot of that line that Boromir has when he picks up the ring, and oh, what a strange fate that such a small thing creates such anguish. Whatever the fuck the exact line is, you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing where, don't know. I mean, yes, it's just a simple enough line that it could be applied to many different things, but it was a little touch that I enjoyed, whether or not it was intentional or not. I'm sure it was maybe a little bit intentional.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You sound like Banjo Kazooie over here.
I was just gonna say I absolutely love that scene, obviously, because like if you know who the character of Feanor is, like that's such a big deal that they have his hammer there. I'm very, very intrigued on if we
Even
get a
if you
little
don't,
bit more.
still a good scene. So I'll
Yeah,
say
it's
that.
fantastic scene, even if we don't. But I am a little bit hopeful that we touch a little bit more on some Feanor stuff. I was kind of shocked that we even mentioned a Cimmeril like in this episode. That's fucking wild to me. I love that shit. That's so first age. That's Cimmerillion stuff, and I love it. But yeah, no, like just having like this moment of him holding this hammer that Feanor. I don't know if he uses that same hammer like when he forges, because this is the guy that forges the Elven rings. And so I don't know if it's going to be that
Elden
same.
Rings.
Yeah, I don't think it's that same device that he uses, but who knows? It could be because he's building a forge, and what's going to happen there, right? So I'm just so excited as to what's going to come out of with this character of Celebrimbor, and because I've just done some research on the character, not really like read too much about him. Like I've heard of what he's done and that he is just this like super master craftsman. But like what is he actually like? You know, like how does he actually get these things done? And I'm just so fascinated to just get those answers, and I hope we do. I hope we do get those answers. You know, it's not just like, oh no, we just skip 100 years, now this thing's made, and this is what happened here. And, like actually seeing his thought process and how he works and why he's just so well regarded to the elves and has this legacy.
So I wanted to pitch to you, Kirklin. Can you provide like a little more context on that store that
Celebrimbor.
Fucking yeah, that's the one.
Celebrimbor.
Calibrimble. Bor.
Celebrimbor.
He was
Wingardium
talking.
Leviosa.
Yeah, he was talking to Elrond and was talking about how Melkor basically had this. I'm assuming it was another item that this character used or crafted, not Celebrimbor, but another item, and his tear like landed in it.
Oh yeah, so Feanor, he's the one that created the Silmarils. He's
Right.
like the greatest craftsman. Morgoth like was just absolutely obsessed with the Silmarils because they were so fantastic, like they were just so beautiful. And then yeah, like I don't remember word for word what they said, but
He almost
definitely
became like a good guy, but he saw his evil reflection and it snapped him out.
No, not exactly. It was just like because he has zero good in him at all. Like he is literally. When they made the universe, he was what evil is, like that. So he's not good. Like he's just straight bad.
Unfair,
It makes
I
him
guess.
very 2D
Yeah,
in
they
that
kinda
sense,
set him
like
up
very
for
flat.
failure, right? It's not really his,
Yeah.
it's not really his fault.
Poor guy.
No, yeah,
I'm sympathetic for him.
Yeah, you're just,
exactly.
evil.
And then yeah, no, that was a very like artsy way that he put it there, right? Like the way that he was able to see his own reflection on what he was, and then it just pissed him off, and he wanted to take the Silmarils for himself because they're just so fantastic. He didn't want any other ones to have them, and like that's like the whole story of the Silmarillion is like Morgoth's obsession with these Silmarils and him stealing them and fucking up a lot of elves along the way. I don't even remember what you specifically asked.
I just
more
wanted context
details
on that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You delivered.
And like again, I was surprised they even mentioned that in this episode because that's like first age stuff, you know, not where we are right now in age 2. But yeah, we'll see if more answers like that get answered.
And
Just
what
finished.
this
Don't know what
is-
the fuck is going on, but I love it all.
And that's what
Good
I'm
to hear.
excited for the next week or so is just to see not like the crazy weird people, like just what people are going to think about this, you know, like general audiences and stuff like that. And I'm excited to see, and I hope for Amazon it works out after spending like $1 billion on the effects and everything. I hope it works
Yeah.
out and they get that. I'm really curious to see like the numbers. Like
Numbers.
to me, I'm hoping for them this is pulling in more than like some of the Disney Plus stuff. Because if it's pulling in the same thing as like Hawkeye and stuff, you're like, oof, I don't know if that money was. I'm happy. It's worth it for me because I have this show to watch now. But it's and even obviously for future seasons and stuff. But I think the budget definitely shows. But I can't wait to see what people think about this that are maybe just more passing Lord of the Rings fan. If like I said, I worried the first episode was a bit too slow, and some people might even like check out there and go, I'll wait till it's over or something like that. But we'll see. Anything else to shout out of notes? Anything? The only note I have is when that guy was getting a fight with Arender. I'm gonna have to learn all these people's names. Elf that was with
Arondir.
Arondir. He got in that fight with that guy, and the bartender was like, "Just have a drink to quench your fire." I don't know why. I liked that, and then I liked him blocking the punch. So I just like quenching your fire with something that I was not expecting, but I guess it worked. So, and all my other notes we hit
Fun
on. So,
wordplay.
yeah.
Yeah. I think the section we haven't really mentioned was Galadriel at the beginning. Galadriel and her squad are
Right.
climbing the ice mountain, which all that looks great, and I love them finding this old Sauron tomb, finding the sign there. The snow troll fight I really liked because it just showed how fucking clinical Galadriel was. Like every single hit was intentional and was just like, okay, vital organ, dead. It was so cool. I like the one dude set up the sword so she could jump off that. That was like some good tasteful elven acrobatics. So I really like that whole sequence. And this is maybe a thing that was weaker for me in the episode is her kind of squad that was kind of her friend group, but they also were always mean to her. I thought it was generally kind of weak writing. It was just like, it felt like just the first draft, and they never really went back and gave them more character. But knowing that they're gone now and they're not going to show up again, totally makes sense. You don't have to do all this backstory on them. I don't need to know all their names because they're already done with in the first, what you could say is premiere, even though it's 2 episodes. So yeah, I think that was maybe a weaker thing for me, but now that we're past it, I think it's fine for what it was. But yeah, I really like that whole sequence. I just love the visuals when the I guess like the clouds, the fog, whatever is clears a little bit and they can see that structure. Oh,
Yeah.
love the look of all that. So that whole section worked for me. So yeah, I just wanted to shout that out as I like that sequence. The line about their torches like aren't providing any warmth anymore. Like everything there, all the world building and stuff, like just had me. I was totally into it.
I agree. Instantly hated that guy. It's like, we can't go any further.
Oh my god, I
whatever,
know.
buddy.
I laughed so hard too, and like they were in that scene, and then you just see some random elf that they haven't named, and he's just like wandering out on his own, and I'm like, oh my god, like if anyone's gonna
over for
fucking
you.
die, it's the guy that we don't know his name, we've never seen him before, he's just wandering off on his own, he's got a bow in short range. But he didn't even die. That was kind of surprising there.
Kirklin, so what is like Sauron doing? Like he's obviously in full like physical form here, but he's just like biding his time. That's his plan.
I would imagine he's just like recruiting
houses.
right now. He's got just building houses, so he
Making
can
gains,
increase his population.
Banging and
yeah.
clanging, just
Banging and
every day,
clanging.
just like he's lifting 10
Looking for
orcs at the
Durin's
same
beads as it
Yeah.
goes.
He needs what that spider he has, so he can just
Harvesting
juice
crops.
up, Yeah.
the light of Valar.
Yeah, he's actually just
Pure
a
light.
He's just a gardener right
Yeah.
now. He's like, look at my cherry tomatoes.
Yeah,
Don't they
no,
look so
'cause,
good
like,
this year?"
They stress that like the war's over and it must be pretty recent, that if Sauron's like kind of on the run. It's kind of interesting too that they mentioned that like they haven't seen orcs in a while, so
Yeah.
they're definitely on their back heel. It's
'Cause when
definitely
that
like an
guy
era.
mentioned that his town was destroyed by him. She's like, what do you mean? Like she detached on
Yeah.
that real quick.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting era to be in because obviously in the entire events of the trilogy, like orcs are very relevant. They're popping off. The races of men, like they're the ones on the back heel. So this is a very interesting time, and oh man, I can't get over that scene of Sauron. It was so gorgeous of just him like walking like down toward, and like you really see his size in comparison to just like the orcs around him. Like he just looks absolutely huge, and I love that he had that like spear thing. Fuck, it looked so good.
I'm ready to see him fight. I'm ready. Give it to me. If I get this show and I don't see him fight either, I'm gonna be like eternally pissed. Like all I'm gonna have is Lord of the Rings conquest.
We'll have plenty of seasons to cover, right? I'm really
I
hoping
hope.
that this show just pops off and it becomes like an 8-season thing at least. That would be.
At least, not
Yeah,
even
why
multi,
not?
At least 8
Why not?
seasons. I'm down.
I'm getting like Game of Thrones vibes watching
That-
the quality of the episodes, honestly. Even better so, because this is like already an established thing. I
Oh.
feel like Game of Thrones season 1, it didn't look as great as where it is in season 8.
Yeah, true.
Um,
But also, it wasn't a big IP like Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings.
no,
was, right?
100%. It's tough to compare the two, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
And they had Sean Bean, so they took a little from Lord of the
Sean
Rings.
Bean.
And
Yeah.
Elrond
Man.
too, right?
oh yeah,
No,
there you
The
go,
actor.
young Elrond.
I guess.
Oh,
it's
they
true.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah.
Man, I watched The Martian yesterday, and I didn't realize that Sean Bean's in it, and they do a Lord of the Rings like reference, and they literally are like talking about the Council of Elrond, and I never noticed that scene like
Wow,
until my
yeah.
second viewing. It's very strange because you have Sean Bean there, and they're like
Mhm.
talking about Boromir. It's weird.
It's been so
Um,
long. I gotta watch it again.
yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, no, that scene, which I believe is Utunmo. Utunmo, I think that's what it is.
That's a fucking word.
It's a Tumo.
if I'm not mistaken, that is Morgoth's first fortress where he like first corrupted
Nice.
elves into being orcs, which is just so fucking awesome.
Nice.
And the look of it's fantastic. It looks so sweet. I love too when they were in like that hammer and anvil room when it's like, oh, crafting some bad shit in here. You see
Oh,
that
yeah.
orc that's just like melted to
Oh,
the
yeah.
wall. I like how they were mentioning.
I thought his eyes were gonna move at any moment.
Yeah, I definitely thought that maybe I don't know. They're gonna have some hint at like a ring thing. I feel like we're definitely still too early for that, but I like that they mentioned of like practicing the magics of like with the unseen. Now I mentioned that of course because like that's where Frodo goes when he puts on the ring. That's where the Nazgul live. Like it's a completely different realm, and it seems like that orc kind of got caught in the middle or something because he's just kind of like fused to the wall. It's a very very interesting situation there. Very evil, just with that mark, and I like how every time that Galadriel's seen that it like goes into that flame mode. It reminds me of like when Gandalf went to touch the ring and then you get like flash with the eye. All of that like just feeling of that evil presence is fantastic. Another thing too with that setting, I loved how when they like, got there, like the fire was not giving off any heat because it was just so evil. Like it was just like everything was cold there. Where does she know where to go? Almost like a Gandalf line. It's like the air's a little bit colder over here. It's like the smell's not so foul over here. So I liked all of that stuff with that opening fortress scene, and yeah, just tying on to what you guys said. The troll looked fantastic and just a badass showcase of Galadriel. She did a little flourish too, a little kill shot too with Finrod's dagger.
Bonus points, yeah.
Yeah. If you guys have nothing else to say, I was going to just bring us to the end on who you think maybe is in that ship saving Galadriel and her new little boy toy thing that she's got there.
Her boy toy. You talking about the guy again?
Yeah, Hallbrand, I think that's his name.
Well, they're gonna go on.
It's gonna be Celeborn on the ship. Be like, what are you doing?
They're gonna go on some.
What are you doing with my woman?
And they're gonna fall. You fucking my wife? Yeah, that's my wife. No, I don't know any characters who it could be. I don't know what, because the preview showed like a lot of stuff. They were showing off like the Minister of Tree, and they're showing off the King statue. So I don't know when we're gonna get where, but I have no theories of who the man is.
Numenorian man, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it definitely could be Numenor. Like maybe this is a Isildur or a Elendil or something.
Oh, fuck.
But like just going from the trailers, I feel like when Galadriel arrives to Numenor, she's like in full like plate mail, like she's just looking looking awesome. But like here, she's obviously pretty down and out. Yeah, no, it's definitely true. I feel like maybe though it is, I don't know, Elrond or some elf that's just gonna save her, take her back to the thing.
The shadow looked like Elrond, and that was my first worry because I'm like, please don't be Elrond. This is gonna feel too coincidental. So if it is Elrond,
why the
I'll
fuck
have that
would
as
he
a
be out
context.
there?
Yeah, but the shadow looked identical to his hairline. So I'm like, if it's Elrond, that's gonna be a con for me next week. If she just happened to wash up and I'm like, oh, Elrond, my good friend, So I
was
not.
fishing and I happened upon Galadriel.
Yeah, yeah, you fish.
So, what are the odds of it being Elendil?
Who's that?
Elendil?
Dylan.
Yeah,
It's Isildur's father.
Oh, of course, yes.
Isildur took
The
up his father's
pronunciation threw me
blade.
off of it.
Because at this point in time, wouldn't he be like leaving Numenor with like his ships and his families and just like heading to Middle Earth?
His family.
No, not
Plural.
necessarily, because like the fall of Numenor hasn't happened. That will happen at some point in the show, but as of we're concerned, we haven't even been to Numenor yet. Well, we haven't even been to
It's
Numenor.
Aragorn.
Right?
Yeah.
But you pitched
I know.
Isildur. So, so how would Isildur be here if his father isn't?
What do you mean? I never said he has to be on that same ship.
But
Elendil could be on
then you
Numenor.
made it sound like it was for sure not his dad when Taylor asked you. Like, why could it be his dad? But then with Isildur, you said it could
Just
be.
fuck
him.
me.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah. I hate Taylor, so I just shot it down right away. No, I don't know. Maybe I shot it down too hardly. I'm sorry. I just feel like Elendil would be like I don't think he would be like a king or anything at this point in time. But like still kind of in a more senator type role position. I don't know. I don't really understand the full politics of Numenor. I'm very intrigued on what that entails, but like I think we've seen casting for Elendil as well as Isildur, so they're around. It's gonna be watch it be Elendil now, and I'm gonna have to eat my words and apologize to Taylor.
Eat him up.
I'm at a loss. I don't know exactly. I think it would be my chips would be on Numenor if we didn't have that trailer scene of her like arriving in full armor. Maybe they just have a change of clothes for her. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Here, put this on. Yeah. Anything else? What you
I think it's
laughing at,
Samwise Gamgee on that boat. That's my.
Samwise.
So why is the brave?
The
I've heard
Brave.
about you. And they say this actually takes place after Lord of the Rings, and everyone gets real mad. Like, oh, it's a new Ring of Power. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have done it. We reviewed episodes 1 and 2. We'll be back next week doing weekly reviews till the season finale. Let us know. Like Finn McClay says, maybe there'll be a Ring of Power Discord because we have
There already
fucking-
is.
Oh God, we have just 10 million channels in there and stuff like that. But that's what we do in there because there's so many conversations. So you got that in there. And then if you want to tell us what you thought about Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, go ahead. But we'll be back next week talking about episode 3, and it will not be boring.
Peace.
Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew.